145. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Well, good evening. It's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, in for Patrick Christys tonight.
No, this is important. Mark my words. Labour will raise your taxes. It's in their DNA. Your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. Okay.
You name it.
Sorry,
Labour will tax it.
Well, Rishi Sunak looks like he was right, wasn't he? Because it seems this government is going to raise your income taxes. I'm going to reveal what they've wasted your money on. And breaking tonight, reports in the Daily Mail that the Chancellor has broken housing law. She's now facing an ethics investigation. Could she soon follow Angela Rayner out the door? Also, yeah, in insane news, we've given an Ethiopian paedophile a whole year's salary just so we can kick him out of Britain. This is the same Ethiopian sex offender that Sky News are giving the rock star treatment to tonight. He's not a paedophile, he is a paedophile, sorry, not a celebrity. Meanwhile, British people are being murdered in cold blood across the country. I'm going to reveal all the chilling details and... Yeah, a Camden council in London has issued a guide on dealing with statues of white male oppressors as it pledges to abolish the white gaze of traditional memorialisation in favour of a truly inclusive and representative of our diverse and vibrant communities. Plus, with your council tax soaring, why on earth are council workers allowed a 4-day working week? Also,
the thing of a single European unity. It's completely failed.
Are you going to interrupt me every time I start speaking? Because that's part of the technique, you know, that the populist and the right wing use.
Well, Lord Michael Heseltine, former Deputy Prime Minister, calls reform fascist, and then he's lauded by Sir John Cleese. How deep does Farage derangement syndrome actually run? And on my panel tonight, it's Director of the Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, Reform UK Councillor Russell Quirk, and broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov. And do you think this guy's going to make it?
I'm not making that.
Yeah, you will.
I'm not.
You will.
No, I'm not.
Oh, but your Wednesday night is just getting started. But first, let's get your news with Sam Francis.
Alex, thank you, and good evening to you. The top story just after 9 o'clock. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has admitted breaking housing law after renting out her family home without a licence. The Mail has revealed her South London property was let out for £3,200 a month without the required council permit. Ms Reeves says she was unaware of the rule and has now applied for a licence, calling it an inadvertent mistake. She's also referred herself to the Prime Minister's ethics advisor and the Parliamentary Standards watchdog. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, though, says the revelations are very serious and is demanding a full investigation. The migrant sex offender mistakenly released from prison has claimed he tried to hand himself into police the day before his arrest. Hadush Kabatu told Sky News he approached officers in London on Saturday, saying he was a wanted man, but was ignored. The Met Police, though, says there's no evidence of that, insisting his behaviour looked more like he was trying to avoid arrest. Kabatu, who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Essex, has since been deported to Ethiopia, receiving a £500 payment after threatening to disrupt his removal flight. Downing Street says that payment was an operational decision to avoid costly delays. A major Microsoft outage has hit services worldwide tonight, disrupting Heathrow Airport, NatWest, Asda and even Minecraft. The company says a global DNS issue has caused widespread problems across its Azure cloud platform and Microsoft 365 services, including Outlook and Teams. Some users here in the UK have also reported issues with the O2 network, while in the US, Starbucks is among the companies affected. Microsoft says it is rerouting traffic to restore services. A 22-year-old man, Safi Dawood, has been charged with murder and attempted murder after a triple stabbing in Uxbridge that left dog walker Wayne Broadhurst dead. A 45-year-old man remains in hospital with life-changing injuries, and a 14-year-old boy was also stabbed, though he is expected to recover. The Home Office says Dawood, an Afghan national, arrived in the UK by lorry in 2020 and was then granted asylum 2 years later. Police have said the attack is not being treated as terrorism, but detectives are still investigating the motive. A small boat migrant who stabbed a man to death inside a Derby High Street bank has been jailed today for life with a minimum term of 25 years. 47-year-old Somali national Habi Nur pleaded guilty to murdering 37-year-old Govinda Dani Johal. Nur launched the random attack inside a Lloyds bank in May, just moments after angrily complaining about his refused asylum claim. Mr. Johal was pronounced dead at the scene after being stabbed multiple times. Arrests for illegal working have soared to their highest levels since records began, with more than 8,000 migrants detained across the UK. It follows an immigration enforcement blitz of over 11,000 raids since October last year, leading to more than 1,000 deportations. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says the Home Office has failed to meet the challenge of repeated crises, but insists she'll do whatever it takes to secure Britain's borders. And in France, prosecutors say 2 men arrested over the Louvre Museum heist have partially admitted their involvement in the theft of priceless jewels. 4 masked thieves broke into the Paris Museum on the 19th of October, escaping with valuable gems and exposing major security failings at the world's most visited museum. At a press conference today, the Paris prosecutor confirmed the jewels have not yet been recovered, but the investigation is continuing. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with a full roundup at 10. Now, though, it's over to Alex.
Welcome back, everybody. We're giving £88 million for condoms and contraception in Pakistan, all while Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are potentially plotting to raise your income tax.
No, this is important. Mark my words. Labour will raise your taxes. It's in their DNA. Your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. OK,
you name it,
sorry,
Labour will tax it.
But he wasn't wrong, was he? It is utterly unthinkable that this Labour government that has spaffed billions upon billions of your hard-earned taxpayer money would now put the final nail in their electoral coffin and potentially break yet another manifesto pledge by raising income tax.
Mr. Speaker, in their manifesto last year, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises? Yes. Last year, in its manifesto, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Leader of the Opposition is now finally talking about the economy. I can update the House, Mr. Speaker. Retail sales are higher than expected. Inflation is lower than expected. Growth has been upgraded this year.
It seems all but confirmed now, doesn't it? No denial in the House of Commons today when challenged. Just the same old 14 years of failure line that nobody with half a brain in Britain is buying anymore. But if it does go ahead, then an income tax hike really would be a slap in the face, wouldn't it? Because this government has binged on your cash, unleashing billions on ideological crusades. Here is some of them. 30 billion committed to short-term funds on net zero, 8.3 billion birthing GB Energy that's only pushed your bills up and will continue to do so, by the way, 12.6 billion for the Department of Energy Security and net zero. Their budget is going up 16% by 2028. Plus 20 billion for scientifically unproven carbon capture plants. Do you remember those? And let's not get started on the 14 billion just for legal migrants on universal credit in the last 15 months alone. And what about all the bureaucracy Starmer and Reeves promised to cut? Well, they've set up even more of these non-governmental departments, devouring 150 billion yearly. Labour added 27 new ones by March 2025, with a whopping 570 diversity networks across government departments involving almost 3,000 committee members. And guess what? The annual cost is about 700 grand a year to you, the taxpayer. DEI waste comes in at 27 million in the public sector, with 250 grand for council inclusion officers and other absurdities like 2.3 million on Kenyan cups and 500 grand to the Indian tech sector. Oh, and do you remember when Keir Starmer told you they were cleaning up politics and cracking down on cronyism?
To clean up politics, I will restore standards in public life with a total crackdown on cronyism.
Ah! Well, it turns out that companies that donated to Labour were awarded £138 million in contracts. That's a report by the think tank Autonomy Institute. Well, they have found that. Oh, and how can we forget the Chagos surrender, costing taxpayers £30 billion? Oh, but we've all got to feel sorry for little old Rachel Reeves, haven't we?
And may I take this opportunity to thank our outstanding British Transport Police for everything that they do to support staff and passengers.
Yeah, do you know who I feel sorry for? The taxpayer. I know it's been tough for Rachel when she sits there on her lovely parliamentary salary that comes with a guaranteed yearly pay rise and her free taxpayer-funded accommodation, all while, get this, renting out her old digs, earning her 74 grand annually in rental income. And it gets worse, doesn't it, for the Chancellor, because breaking tonight in the Daily Mail, Rachel Reeves has broken housing regulations by unlawfully renting out her family home without a licence after entering Downing Street. The Chancellor has tonight referred herself to the independent ethics advisor and had to admit her error to the Prime Minister. She failed to obtain a rental licence when she placed her family home in Dulwich on the rental market last year as she moved with her family into number 11 Downing Street. Well, 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 maybe I need to get some more toast ready. Well, let's be clear, though. Your services are not getting better with more taxpayer cash. They are, if anything, getting worse. All you'll be doing is giving this government, more money for it to blow on ideological BS like green energy zealotry, reparations in the form of condoms to Pakistan and an income tax break for Mauritians that we never even had imperial rule over. Rather than the government going bankrupt or controlling its spending like we're all expected to do, aren't we? Instead, it steals more money from you while it continues its ideological crusade against the British people. But let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, property expert and Reform UK councillor, Russell Quirk, and journalist and broadcaster, Nina Mishkov. Welcome, everybody. I think we're going to have to get started with this breaking news, aren't we? I think the public wants to know what this is all about, and thankfully we've got a housing expert on the panel tonight. And what were the chances, Russell? Almost like we made it happen. Russell, do you have any idea what this little nuance is here that she's been caught out on?
Yes, so there are certain boroughs of London that insist on licensing. So if you're a landlord and you seek to rent out your property, and obviously by default, if you're renting out your property, you become a landlord automatically. In some boroughs, including the one in which Rachel Reeves has this particular property, you have to have a licence. The licence cost is something around £800 to £900, depending on the borough. And it seems that, yes, in an absence of mind, Rachel Reeves has forgotten or not realised that the property that she owns is indeed within one of those areas. I have to say, though, somewhat controversially for someone on the centre-right, this is not the biggest scandal in property terms that has befallen the Labour front bench. It's not as big as Angela Rayner and her escaping stamp duty. It's not as big, I don't think, as the Lucy Powell story yesterday. And 4 other Labour MPs that obviously are creaming it from the taxpayers, seemingly, in terms of renting out their properties to other MPs and then claiming those rents back on expenses. And probably not even as big as, let's not forget, 15 months ago, the Wahid Ali Keir Starmer story in terms of the gift of a £20 million penthouse in Covent Garden. So there is a litany of these things.
He stayed there. It wasn't a gift. He stayed
there for quite some time.
Yes, but, you know...
it was registered, I believe, as a gift, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a gift, for heaven's sake. And what I was going to say to you, I understand that she let the house out through a letting agent. Now, wouldn't it be beholden for the letting agent to say, have you got a licence? Because in this borough, you know, you would imagine that would happen.
We don't
also,
know they didn't.
Also, I'm not very good at maths, but I can add up. And apparently she's letting it out for $3,200 a month, which doesn't equate to $74,000
That's
a year.
her other house, I think. That's her other house.
Her other house. OK, well, this one says $3,000.
This is her family home, I think, yeah.
Put her 4-bedroom detached house on the market for...
Sorry, when did the Labour front bench become the land and property owning gentry?
Well, no, I was just about to ask.
Goodness sake!
I understand this licence stuff might not be the biggest deal in the world, but I think the public will say, look, you promised us clean politics. You promised there'd be zero tolerance, Keir Starmer, and now you're actually going to make... Probably he's going to make an excuse for it, is he?
This is the key point. I am relatively sympathetic to people of all political stripes who make a slip of the pen. But the Labour Party prospectus at the last election could not have been clearer. Firstly, they were not going to raise any taxes. And secondly, they were going to be as pure as the driven snow on absolutely everything. No more one rule for thee and one rule for me. A completely clean bill of health. A level of ethical behaviour that would be a breath of fresh air. And on both points, they failed utterly. Quite why you need a licence to rent out your property is absolutely beyond me.
Can I suggest why? It's because those London boroughs want to use that as a form of stealth taxation. It's got nothing to do with licensing. It's all about income.
Well, I'm not sure that should be at the discretion of a London borough.
No.
But nevertheless, what's the penalty for not having a licence?
I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out.
But anyway,
we're about to find out.
It's Southwark Council, which with the local authority, requires that private landlords in certain areas, including where her house is located, to have a selective licence. So it's not even all of Southwark. So I don't blame her.
She has broken the law. She has broken the law.
It's not a big deal.
She has broken the law.
It's not a big deal.
I know, Nina, but you know what? There will be... I mean, listen, some people would say Boris Johnson having a birthday cake wasn't a big deal, right? Where do the big deals start and stop? And this is the problem,
I don't think that was a big deal.
I think there is a two-tier outrage. If this was a Tory Chancellor, they'd be calling for his head. Because it's Rachel Reeves, she might cry again and they'll let her off. And I think this, at the time when she is about to impose, and probably, by the sounds of it, we don't know for sure.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know, but it looks like they haven't denied it, which they would do if they weren't considering it, an income tax.
Well, that's exactly
this
it,
is the
isn't
problem,
it?
isn't it?
That's got to be... I mean, this is a screw-up by Rachel Reeves and embarrassing, but it is going to be nothing compared to the embarrassment that we're going to get on November the 26th.
It's pretty poor
There
optics.
is going to be an absolutely ghastly tax raid. It is going to be a clear breach of their manifesto commitment. As you rightly pointed out in your introduction, there is vast government waste that they seem unwilling or incapable of tackling.
Which they said they would, didn't they?
And therefore the burden's going to fall on the taxpayer.
But it's very, very poor optics. But the other thing, because we've now had this progression of mess-ups by the Labour front bench with regard to specifically property stories, it is actually the property sector that is going to have the broadest shoulders, shall we say, to use probably a phrase that Rachel will use when she's at the dispatch box on November the 26th. So the irony of, it seems, lots and lots of Labour front benches getting away with it when it comes to property taxation and property licence income, but at the same time imposing potentially a mansion tax and other such taxes on the poor unsuspecting public. I mean, there is an irony to that, I think.
Yeah, Nina?
I would just like to take issue with something you said, Alex, which is that you have to be bird-brained to sort of buy the argument that it's the 14 years of Tory government. The thing is, it was true when they took power, and it's still true. We may be bored hearing about it, but it's absolutely true. They inherited, after 14 years of absolute disastrous government. And you cannot fix that in 15 months.
Oh, but the problem with that, Nina, is Rachel Reeves said that she had fixed it. That she said after the last budget.
Well,
I have fixed it.
Well, once we got the 20 billion black hole out of the way.
I will not need to come back for any more.
Circumstances change.
Circumstances are not the Tories. Circumstances are not the Tories.
That sounds a bit like the recollections vary.
She's doing some very positive things. She came back from Saudi Arabia with like a $6.4 billion deal for the Davos of the desert.
Why does she need to put up taxes then?
She might not need to if she does more more deals like
I
this.
think if you remember, the Labour Party slammed the Tories for going out to Saudi Arabia, so they were going cap in hand from dictator to dictator. So this is what I mean. It's this two-tierness that really winds the public up. Don't sit in opposition and be morally righteous and then go and do the same things. I was also talking about the contracts stuff there as well, handing out contracts to Labour donors, which they took the Tories to town over. And I think this is what really enrages us. We can forgive little mistakes from politicians, but when you say you're holier than thou, well, you better be it. Anyway, on the claims about contracts and donations, a government spokesperson said this: all government contracts are awarded fairly and transparently in line with the public contracts regulations in 2015. All decisions on contracts are rigorously scrutinised to deliver the best value for the taxpayer. And on the subject of the Chancellor's rental income, a Labour Party spokesman said this: the rental incomes have been declared in the usual way in accordance with the rules. And on that, breaking news tonight, of course, reports in the Daily Mail, the Chancellor broke a housing law. A spokesperson for the Chancellor said, since becoming Chancellor, Rachel Reeves has rented out her family home through a lettings agency. She had not been made aware of the licensing requirement, but as soon as it was brought to her attention, she took immediate action and has applied for the licence. This was an inadvertent mistake, and in the spirit of transparency, she has made the Prime Minister and the Independent Advisor on Ministerial Standards and the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards aware. Well, there we go, everybody. That's it, all solved. Right, there's just 2 days left in our latest Great British giveaway. You can win from a motorhome and 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
There's just 2 days left in our biggest giveaway to date, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Someone is guaranteed to win our biggest prize to date. But hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck, everybody. Well, coming up, in 2021, Bill Gates was a fully signed-up climate fanatic.
Avoiding a climate disaster will be one of the greatest challenges humans have ever taken on.
Well, fast forward to today, and the billionaire has had a change of heart, slamming climate community's doomsday fear-mongering. Oh, well, I wonder what changed, eh? So is he right that climate change is not the end of the world? That's next.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Only on GB News, of course. Is billionaire Microsoft founder Bill Gates right that climate change won't be the end of the world? Well, it's time now for our head-to-head. Yes, billionaire Microsoft founder Bill Gates appears to have completely reversed his position on climate change, admitting that it's not the end of the world. Well, he's long supported efforts to combat global warming. Here he is back in 2021.
Microsoft co-founder and philanthropist Bill Gates is on an urgent mission to fight climate change. In fact, he's spent more than a decade investigating the causes and effects of global warming. And Gates is now about to release a new book on the subject, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster.
Avoiding a climate disaster will be one of the greatest challenges humans have ever taken on. Greater than landing on the moon. Greater than eradicating smallpox. Even greater than putting a computer on every desk.
Well, fast forward to 2025, and in a blog post on Monday, Bill Gates said this: although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. Well, 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 how the tune changes, eh? So, is he right that climate change will not lead to the end of the world? Going to head-to-head on this now is Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, Harry Wilkinson, and climate activist Dr. Bing Jones. Welcome both to the show. Harry, I'll start with you. This is quite a 180 by Bill Gates. Of course, he's been renowned for his sort of climate activism. Is he right to say now that actually all this doomsaying that people like Greta Thunberg have gone around, who seems to have also forgotten that there's a climate emergency all of a sudden, that actually it's just a bit of pie in the sky?
That's right. He is absolutely correct. And this is a vindication for those of us who have actually advocated for a more balanced approach to climate change for some time. There has never in the scientific evidence been that justification for doom and gloom, for this idea that the world is going to end. We see that the world's never been a safer place. The number of people dying in extreme weather events has been coming down 99%. Over the last 100 years, you're much less likely to be killed, thank goodness, in an extreme weather event. These are things we should celebrate. And that march towards prosperity that's been driven by free markets, powered by fossil fuels, that march towards progress has been forgotten because we've embraced this catastrophist narrative around climate change. And it's not helped us reach sensible solutions. You rushed to use wind and solar energy that hasn't worked. It's actually maybe slowed decarbonisation. If we hadn't invested those trillions in wind and solar, but have instead used reliable technologies like nuclear, how much more down the road to decarbonisation we might have been. So I hope this moment is a moment that people can wake up and realise, let's not just jump on these groupthink bandwagons and listen to the people urging caution, listen to the people saying that we need policies that work rather than a rush to adopt decarbonisation at any cost, which has been so damaging.
Yeah, Dr. Bing-Jones, what do you make of Harry's comments there? Of course, he's echoing similar words to Bill Gates. Do you think we need to be less worried now about climate disasters?
No, I don't think we need to be really worried about the fact that people like Harry and people like yourself in GB News are funded to spread propaganda, which is kind of confusion, denial, and you're funded by the fossil fuel interests. And that is the complete disaster here. There's an opacity here. Your audience are not told why people are saying what they're saying, and they're mostly speaking from a position of wealth and privilege. Bill Gates is a billionaire. Of course, he's not going to suffer too much because he's old and he's fabulously rich. Billionaires like Bill Gates are building bunkers for themselves. And ordinary people really need to be listening to the United Nations, to Antonio Guterres, who's saying that it's absolutely imperative that we avoid the catastrophes which are coming our way. There are tipping points which are absolutely just around the corner. We've got the Caribbean, 3 degrees hotter than it should be, the worst ever storms that have ever hit Jamaica. We've got food inflation. We've got ordinary people in the United Kingdom who cannot get insurance against flooding. No, you're giving completely the wrong impression. There's one thing that we've got to do, which is to stop burning fossil fuels. Carbon emissions are rising faster than ever, and this story that everything's all right is completely misleading.
Well, I don't think he said everything's all right. I think he just says it's not going to be the end of the world and we'll adapt as we have done through ice ages. Humans have survived through an ice age. That'll be and the weather changes all the time. The climate does change. The planet is not static. And that's a debate I never hear fanatics on the green zealotry ever say. And as for the UN, of course, they're going to talk up the end of the world because they get far more money invested into them when they go for all this fear mongering. Harry, I'll come back to you briefly on this one as well, because, you know, there's Extinction Rebellion and other sort of radical activist groups have, in my opinion, made a mockery of green energy, and they've actually completely reversed some of the what I would have thought respectful, intelligent debates that we should have been having.
That's right. I just want to respond there. GWPF is not funded by fossil fuel interests. We make a specific point of not accepting energy money. So that's completely incorrect, what the other guest has been saying. But this is an elitist agenda. That the green agenda is denying people the energy they need to transform their lives. It's poor countries, most of all, that aspire to the industrialized prosperity that we have in the West. And if they're going to get to the levels of standard of living that we have, they're going to need roads. They're going to need coal power stations. They're going to need carbon-intensive processes. And it's a complete denial of reality to think that poorer countries can somehow develop in a mysterious way that isn't carbon-intensive. So we need those fossil fuels most of all for the poorest people around the world. And we need cheap, reliable, abundant energy for those people.
Harry, I'll bring in Dr. Bing-Jones. I'll bring Dr. Bing-Jones.
That is completely wrong. Fossil fuels are far more expensive than renewable energy. Once you've got a solar panel, it costs you nothing.
Apart from when you have to replace it.
The Tufton Street people that fund Harry there are all geared around maintaining profit. Bill Gates, he's done lots of good, but he's still making vast amounts of profit. He's still hedging his bets. He's still funding fossil fuels, and he's funding large transport arrangements in Canada to move some of the most carbon-intensive shale gas, oil ever. These people are... There is a whole story here, which is completely different to the truth. The scientific truth is absolutely clear. The world is heating up very, very fast, faster than it has ever heated before, and it's caused by burning fossil fuels. And the only way that we are going to save our bacon is to stop burning fossil fuels.
OK, gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, Harry Wilkinson, and climate change activist, Dr. Bing Jones. Thank you very much for coming on. By the way, no one pays me to say anything. I say what I think, just to make that very, very clear. Coming up, London Council has created a guide for dealing with white male oppressors. Are they trying to rewrite our history? I think so, but we'll find out in just a few minutes.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Generally brighter across many areas of Europe this week, though we can't rule out some rain, particularly across southwestern areas of Spain and also parts of Portugal, all down to an area of low pressure just to the west of the UK, swinging in some fronts at times. Also fairly showery across northern areas of Italy. Sardinia too could also see some spells of heavy showers, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, pushing into Greece, it should be mostly dry and settled with some sunshine. Now there's still some showers in the forecast over the weekend, but otherwise feeling warm in any sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It'll be a chilly start as we head into tomorrow, soon turning wet and windy in the west with some hazy spells of sunshine elsewhere. Low pressure has very much been dominating our weather over the past few days, but slight ridge of high pressure means we'll see some slightly drier conditions as we progress through into the evening. Some showers will remain for a time, but these will soon ease away as we head our way towards dawn. Light winds, clear skies, so that means it is going to be turning chilly as we head our way into Thursday. It's likely we'll see some frost, particularly across Scotland, northern areas of England, but for all it is going to be a chilly start. Many towns and cities around the mid-single figures. We could also see some mist and fog patches through the early hours. These should lift and clear away relatively quickly through the course of the morning. Still some scattered showers around coasts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry, bright start to the day, but feeling cold with some patchy frost. We'll start to see some thicker areas of cloud push their way into Northern Ireland, also elsewhere across western areas of Wales and southwest England. But for the large majority, it should be a dry but chilly start to the day. Now some spells of sunshine during the first part of the morning, but some thicker cloud will edge its way in from the west, creating any sunshine more in the way of hazy spells of sunshine. And then through the course of the afternoon, we will see some outbreaks of rain start to push their way into Northern Ireland and some western areas of England, Wales and also Scotland, and some quite strong blustery winds associated with this, particularly around exposed coasts of Northern Ireland. Still on the chilly side, highs reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now for Friday, Halloween, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers, but some of these showers could be quite intense, merging into longer spells of rain as they push their way in from the west. A good chance we could see some hail and thunder associated with these, and it is set to be quite a blustery day for all, and that includes into the evening if you are out trick-or-treating, and then we'll see a continuation of the sunshine and showers over the weekend. That's it from me, bye-bye.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, London's Camden Council has created a woke new toolkit for dealing with statues, get this, of white male oppressors who may have had private discriminatory ideas. The guidance says that many public artworks and memorials highlight white, male-dominated spheres of public life that could have entered prejudiced beliefs about ethnicity, faith, gender, disability and sexuality. It adds they must be truly inclusive and representative of our diverse and vibrant communities, and uses an example from Camden's own pilot project. A local statue of novelist Virginia Woolf was fitted with a graphic explaining her imperialist attitudes and offensive opinions. And worst of all, the guidance has been shared with heritage and local government organisations all across the United Kingdom and, in even more embarrassment, the entirety of Europe. Well, joining me now is historian and broadcaster Rafe Heidel-Manku. Rafe, this is so exhausting, isn't it? We are not even allowed to have a history without these people actually just slamming it. We're not even allowed to have statues anymore.
Yeah, there is a war on our history. And, you know, too many people recently have been saying that the culture wars have peaked, you know, that we're witnessing the end of woke and that all that sort of madness of Black Lives Matter has faded away. They couldn't be more wrong. This sort of perverse, nihilistic ideology that you're getting from this council is deeply embedded in all our institutions now. You know, the government of Wales wants to make Wales racist free, whatever that means, in the next couple of years. And these far-left iconoclasts, they treat history as a weapon. It's something that they can rewrite and distort and use it as a cudgel to attack and undermine Britain and the West, and of course, white men too. And, you know, I say it's a war on our history markedly because it's part of a wider battle to redefine what it is, what the essence of Britain is, and what it means to be British. And you use the terminology there. The council themselves said white oppressors. Now, this notion of oppressor and oppressed is pure Marxism. And anybody who lived in, you know, communist Central Europe or China will be all too familiar with just these sorts of tactics, destroying statues, you know, rewriting our history, such as saying that Britain was built by immigrants. Even Stonehenge was built by sub-Saharan Africans, denigrating our heroes, you know, attacking Churchill, attacking Wellington and Nelson, wanting to hide their statues away, denying Britain's achievements, ignoring Britain's role in ending slavery, only teaching the bad side of the British Empire. All of this serves to in essence, it's an attempt to sever the connections between the British people and their past. And if you want to destroy those roots, this is how you do it. And you can replace British history with a new ideology and new myths, the new myths that diversity built Britain and that Britain's always been a multicultural nation.
Yeah, and it always seems to be going after white people. I say this, of course, Rafe, because we've been talking about this a lot in the press the last week. Of course, we were talking about Sarah poaching and when it comes to TV adverts. For a long time, we've just heard from the left that there's too many white people in the countryside. There's too many white people in TV programmes. Now there's too many white people in statues. Why is it? Why is it that white people are constantly under attack in Britain? And why is it the left that feel they can get away with it? Because I think it's racism in a completely different format.
It's completely racist. That's what it is. It comes out of envy. It also comes out of a deep sense of self-loathing. It's almost masochistic to try to erase your history. That's one of the reasons behind mass immigration. I remember when Peter Hitchens said that when he was a Trotskyist, they were in favor of mass immigration, not because they loved immigrants. It was because they hated Britain and the West, and they wanted to do damage to it. And it's very interesting, you know, they're talking about, you know, doing this survey of all of the racist statues in Britain and so forth. They never once talk about those people on the left who are racist, you know, people like Che Guevara. You know, many of those people wanting these statues to be removed probably have Che Guevara T-shirts. Deeply racist, awful homophobe. Karl Marx, of course, screeds of anti-racist, of racist and anti-Semitic drivel written. His statue in Highgate still remains unblemished. Mahatma Gandhi.
Am I right in saying even
after Mahatma Gandhi?
I was you took the words out of my mouth. Gandhi. I'm sure I remember reading that Gandhi held some privately racist opinions as well, but we never talk about them, do we?
No, never at all. And in fact, you know, one of the key founders of the Fabian Society people have been talking about a lot recently, was Beatrice Webb. and the Fabian Society, I think Keir Starmer and many members of the Labour Party belong to it. Beatrice Webb was a woman who wrote despairingly in the New Statesman about the falling birth rates of the so-called higher races, and she feared a new social order of the coloured peoples taking over control. No efforts made to actually attack or cancel her. There's a whole room at the British Academy named after her. So the hypocrisy here is sickening. It needs to be called out for what it really is. It's an attempt to essentially deprive Britain of any reason to be proud. There's nothing that Britain has achieved at all which wasn't built on slavery, on exploitation, on corruption. All of our heroes are evil. That's the way that you can rewrite British history and bring in these new myths, a new ideology that Britain's always been diverse, and in fact that multiculturalism was a fundamental part of creating modern Britain.
Yeah, well, let's hope we're in our sort of Joe Biden era, which means we'll be coming up to our Trump era soon, Ray. Fingers crossed on my side, at least. Thank you very much for joining me, historian and broadcaster Rafe Heidel-Mancu, to give us a little bit of common sense there. Well, a Camden Council spokesman told GB News this toolkit provides guidance and good practice in designing projects to interpret statues and memorials. It was shared at a launch event with colleagues from London local authorities and organisations who all responded positively. Well, coming up, the Community Secretary Steve Reed has read the Riot Act to one English council over its 4-day working week policy. Should the practice be totally banned, especially as you're paying more taxes on your councils, aren't you, these days? I'll ask a multi-millionaire British businessman who you will very well know in just a few minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here at GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, the government has finally launched a crackdown on the 4-day working week by rebuking the first council to have adopted it. Community Secretary Steve Reed wrote to the leader of South Cambridgeshire District Council expressing his deep disappointment with its approach. Well, after a study revealed that the move to 4 working days led to a deterioration in rent collection and repairs in the area. Surprise, surprise. Well, the council was the first to adopt a 4-day week permanently this summer, giving bin collectors and social housing officials 100% of their pay for about 80% of their contracted hours. Another 25 councils are said to be considering the move, which critics fear could spread through the public sector, hitting productivity and piling further pressure on our public finances. Well, joining me now is founder and legend of Pimlico Plumbers, Charlie Mullins. Charlie, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's totally bonkers, isn't it? The taxpayer is asked to pay more and more council tax every year. Most of our councils are bankrupt or broke, yet they only have these 4-day working weeks.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you'd be lucky to get 1 day a week out of a 1 day working out of them, let alone 4. It's obviously not going to work, and it's more for a self person. It's more for what they want than what's good for business. Already they're saying repairs are behind, rent collections, many other things by trying to introduce 4-day a week. How can you possibly pay 5 days money for 4 days work? It won't work in manufacturing, won't work in retail, won't work in trades, teaching, NHS, but all of a sudden it'll work for the council. It's just ludicrous, and thank God I've heard a Labour minister come up with something sensible for once.
Yeah, it certainly feels to be the case, Charlie. Because, look, I mean, at the end of the day, there are some studies that have suggested a 4-day working week is somewhat beneficial and that productivity increases. Charlie, would you ever think of doing that with any of your businesses?
No, I mean, we fix we have to work 7 days a week to get jobs covered. Obviously, people want to earn money. It would just be, honestly, it's like laughable to think that it can work across the country. The country's in a mess economically, and they want to start cutting down people going to work. We should be encouraging people back to work, but no, we wouldn't entertain it. If somebody wants a part-time job, then they need to get a part-time job, but they cannot be paid full payment money for part-time work.
The thing is, Charlie, you know, this council that we were just talking about, Cambridgeshire District Council, they had to raise their taxes, their council tax, by 5% in this last year. That's an incredible amount. That's an incredible amount of money to ask when you're giving less back. Do you think there should be at least some acknowledgement from the councils that do this, that people should be getting a council tax cut if they're working less?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, look, if these people are doing 20% less work and getting 20% more money, then somebody's paying for it, and it can only be the end user being the customer. You know, the service isn't there for 4 days, what you can get out of 5 days. But these lazy people, these woke people, these people that don't want to go to work, they're going to argue all day long that they're right. But they've never run a business, and they never will run a business. And I mean, that's why they work for the council.
Charlie, is that the point in politics, though? Because a lot of people look at Parliament, they look at our local councillors, and they go, so many of you have never worked a day in your life, you're paid political people. Do you think that's a problem in our country?
Well, of course it is. I mean, you know, we've got to a stage that many people think they're entitled to, you know, go to, or not go to work and get benefits for nothing. So whenever you're giving people money for nothing, then it's sending out the wrong impression to the youngsters to go to work. We need to change it. I mean, the country's in such a mess, and here we are talking about working 4 days a week and getting 5 days money. It's like laughable. I mean, you know, whoever comes up with these ideas, I mean, they need to get a proper job, if I'm being honest. They're just talking absolute nonsense. But, of course, there's certain people out there that are doing this system and it's working for them. But it works for the worker, not for the employer or the employer. Yeah.
Totally agree, Charlie. Oh, I mean, it'd be amazing if I had a 4-day working week. I can't remember the last time I did ever have one. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Charlie Mullins, there, founder of Pimlico Plumbers. Well, I've got a right of reply here. Bridget Smith, the Liberal Democrat leader in South Cambridgeshire, said, "We are extremely disappointed to receive this letter from the Minister, as we are an exceptionally high-performing council. Since implementing the 4-day working week, a working arrangement in which colleagues do 100% of their work in 32 hours each week, we have delivered an annual saving of almost £400,000, maintained and improved performance. Our turnover has decreased by 41% and the number of applications for roles advertised has surged 123%. Oh, interesting there, isn't it? Coming up... You paid for the Epping sex assault migrant to stay in a hotel. You paid for his trial. You paid for him to stay in prison. You paid for the search to find him after we mistakenly released him. And now you've paid 500 quid to get him to leave the country. How much of that money do you think is worth a salary in Ethiopia? I've got that and all these horror stories coming up next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It'll be a chilly start as we head into tomorrow, soon turning wet and windy in the west with some hazy spells of sunshine elsewhere. Low pressure has very much been dominating our weather over the past few days, but a slight ridge of high pressure means we'll see some slightly drier conditions as we progress through into the evening. Some showers will remain for a time, but these will soon ease away as we head our way towards dawn. Light winds, clear skies, so that means it is going to be turning chilly as we head our way into Thursday. It's likely we'll see some frost, particularly across Scotland, northern areas of England, but for all it is going to be a chilly start. Many towns and cities around the mid-single figures. We could also see some mist and fog patches through the early hours. These should lift and clear away relatively quickly through the course of the morning. Still some scattered showers around coasts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry, bright start to the day, but feeling cold with some patchy frost. We'll start to see some thicker areas of cloud push their way into Northern Ireland, also elsewhere across western areas of Wales and southwest England. But for the large majority, it should be a dry but chilly start to the day. Now, some spells of sunshine during the first part of the morning, but some thicker cloud will edge its way in from the west, creating any sunshine more in the way of hazy spells of sunshine. And then through the course of the afternoon, we will see some outbreaks of rain start to push their way into Northern Ireland and some western areas of England, Wales and also Scotland, and some quite strong blustery winds associated with this, particularly around exposed coasts of Northern Ireland. Still on the chilly side, highs reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now for Friday, Halloween, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers, but some of these showers could be quite intense, merging into longer spells of rain as they push their way in from the west. A good chance we could see some hail and thunder associated with these, and it is set to be quite a blustery day for all, and that includes into the evening if you are out trick-or-treating, and then we'll see a continuation of the sunshine and showers over the weekend. That's it from me, bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Well, good evening. It's 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong in for Patrick Christys. Breaking tonight. Reports in the Daily Mail that the Chancellor has broken housing law. She's facing an ethics investigation. Could she soon follow Angela Rayner out the door? Also... Yeah, we've given an Ethiopian paedophile a whole year's salary just so we can kick him out of Britain. This is the same Ethiopian sex offender that Sky News are giving the rock star treatment to tonight. He's a paedophile, not a celebrity, Sky. Meanwhile, British people are being murdered in cold blood across the country. I'm going to reveal all the chilling details. Also...
You share the same love of a single European unity. It's completely failed.
Are you going to interrupt? Are you going to interrupt me every time I start speaking? Because that's part of the technique, you know, that the populist and the right wing use.
Yes, Lord Michael Heseltine, the former Deputy Prime Minister, calls Reform UK fascist and is lauded by Sir John Cleese for it. How deep does Farage derangement syndrome actually run? And breaking news on the front page of The Telegraph. Rachel Reeves is considering a 2p rise in income tax. I'll have more on that when I bring you tomorrow's newspaper front pages. And on my panel tonight, it's Director of the Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, Reform UK Councillor Russell Kirk, and broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov. And do you think this guy's going to make it?
I'm not making that.
Yeah, you will.
I'm not.
You will.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, your Wednesday evening is just getting started, but let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Alex, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 10 o'clock, the top story tonight, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has admitted breaking housing law after renting out her London home without the proper licence. The property in Southwark was let for around £3,200 a month after she moved into Downing Street following last year's election win. But the area requires landlords to hold a selective licence, which Reeves didn't have. A spokesperson says it was an inadvertent mistake made through a letting agency and that she has since applied for the licence. Ms Reeves has also informed the Prime Minister, Parliament's standards watchdog and the independent ethics advisor. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called for a full investigation, saying Sir Keir Starmer must, quote, show he has a backbone to act if his Chancellor broke the law. The Prisons Minister has defended paying migrant sex offender Hadush Kabatu £500 to agree to his deportation, calling it a sensible decision to avoid further disruption. Lord Timpson told peers the payment was an operational call made by officials, not ministers, saying it was far cheaper than keeping him in prison for another year, which he said would have cost around £54,000. The Conservative and Lib Dem peers branded the payment unacceptable and unprofessional. They're demanding to know whether ministers are running a secret slush fund to pay deportees. Kabatu, who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl and a woman in Essex, was deported to Ethiopia this week with no right to return to Britain. Also tonight, a major Microsoft outage has hit services across the world, disrupting Heathrow Airport, NatWest and Asda. The company says that a global DNS issue has caused widespread problems across its Azure cloud platform and Microsoft 365 services. Some users here in the UK have also reported issues with the O2 phone network. Microsoft has said it is rerouting traffic to restore its services. A 22-year-old man, Safi Dawood, has been charged with murder and attempted murder after a triple stabbing in Uxbridge that sadly left dog walker Wayne Broadhurst dead. A 45-year-old man remains in hospital and a 14-year-old boy was also stabbed. The Home Office says Dawood, an Afghan national, arrived in the UK by lorry in 2020 and was granted asylum 2 years later. Police say the attack is not being treated as terrorism and detectives are now investigating the motive. A teenager has today been found guilty of murdering 16-year-old Harry Pittman, who was stabbed in the neck during New Year's Eve celebrations in London. 18-year-old Arise Lloyd Hall lunged at Harry with a dagger as crowds gathered at Primrose Hill to watch fireworks, in what prosecutors called a moment where revelry turned to tragedy in the blink of an eye. Harry collapsed and died just minutes before midnight. Lloyd Hall, who was 16 at the time, claimed it was an accident, but was found guilty of murder at the Old Bailey after a retrial. He'll be sentenced next month. Arrests for illegal working have soared to their highest level since records began. More than 8,000 migrants have been detained across the UK. It follows an immigration enforcement blitz of over 11,000 raids since October last year, leading to more than 1,000 deportations. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says the Home Office has failed to meet the challenge of repeated crises, but she insists she'll do whatever it takes to protect Britain's borders. And just before I hand you back to Alex, an update on the situation in the Middle East, where Israel says it has now carried out a fresh strike on Gaza, accusing Hamas of preparing, they say, an imminent terror attack. The Israeli military says it hit a weapons storage site, claiming it was being used to plan an assault on IDF troops. It follows another night of heavy bombardment that reportedly killed more than 100 people, including children. That came just hours after the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered powerful strikes in response to what he called repeated Hamas violations. The group, though, denies breaking the ceasefire, but the IDF says it will continue to uphold the agreement while removing any immediate threats. Those are your 10 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it is over to Alex.
An illegal Somalian boat migrant was just convicted of randomly murdering a father of 3. A Romanian migrant who stabbed an 11-year-old girl 8 times will not face attempted murder charges. And to top it all off, we just paid an illegal migrant paedophile predator an entire year's salary in his home country. And how seriously do you think our Justice Secretary, David Lammy, is taking all of it?
Calamity Lammy strikes again. It's a national embarrassment. He has perfected the art of performative outrage to a T.
Well, there you go. Those stories I just read have broken in the last 24 hours in this country. It was revealed this morning that the Ethiopian paedophile Hadush Kabatu was given what I'm calling an illegal migrant sex predator golden parachute payment. This dangerous sexual predator who assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Epping has been given £500 by our government. And before you roll your eyes, I just want to tell you what £500 works out to in Ethiopia. Well, it works out to 1,500 Ethiopian beer. I know that doesn't mean anything to any of you, but get this. That is the average salary of an Ethiopian, which is 100,006 Ethiopian beer. So despite all his crimes, we've just given him a year's salary so he can live like a king in Ethiopia. And in yet another insult to his young victim, Sky News are treating him like some sort of quasi-celebrity, jetting out to Ethiopia to do an exclusive interview with him. And I just want to remind them, this man is a convicted paedophile, not a movie star. We wouldn't be doing that at GB News, let me tell you that for sure. And do you remember the homeless Romanian migrant who allegedly headlocked an 11-year-old Australian girl, then proceeded to stab her 8 times right in the middle of Leicester Square in central London in broad daylight? Well, that psychopath pleaded guilty to wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, but denied the charge of attempted murder. He will not face trial for attempted murder after the Crown Prosecution Service said they weren't pursuing it. This is despite the fact, I just want to remind you, that he is said to have stabbed an innocent child 8 times. It is shocking. Oh, and I'm not finished. In more news today, a Somalian boat migrant who was known to police in 4 countries randomly murdered father of 3, Govinda Singh Jahal, all because his asylum application was rejected. And that's what our court has heard before he then calmly walked out of the bank where he committed his murder. I mean, for Christ's sake, how much more of this are we going to take? Should we just put up massive advertisements in every hellhole around the world that reads, come to Britain, get free accommodation and expenses paid for, skip the queue for NHS healthcare. Oh, and while you're here, some of you might molest and rape our women and children, and we'll just lock you up for a few months in a low-security prison somewhere. And if you're unlucky enough to get caught and thrown in prison, you might win the weekly lottery and be one of the 5 people released early by accident, and even then, we'll just deport you back home and make sure you've got a year's salary to make sure you can live like a king. We have become a clown kingdom. There is no other way to describe it. And I'm sick to death. And I am, genuinely, I'm sure many of you are at home as well, just becoming increasingly angry at the state of our country. It's really important, amongst all of this madness, we do not forget the people that have paid the ultimate price for this experiment. So I want to take a moment to read the names of the victims murdered by illegal migrants in the United Kingdom. Jaro Medina, Chrissy Archibald, James McMullen, Sebastian Belange, Alexandre Pigard, Sebastian Ricard, Xavier Thomas, Ignacio Echeverria, Sarah Zelenak, Jodie Miller, Dr. Jerome Ensink, Emily Jones, James Furlong, Dr. David Wales, Joseph Ritchie Bennett, Lorraine Cox, Terence Carney, Govinda Danny Jahal, Rhiannon Sky White. Those are just some of the names because there are currently active cases and trials ongoing, and I'll read them out as soon as I get the chance to. They must be considered innocent until proven guilty, of course, and then I will read out those other names. I'll finish up with this. I am not going to rest until we deport every single one of those illegal migrants that have broken into this country and foreign criminals who think we are just some playground for their disgusting antics. But let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, property expert and Reform UK Councillor, Russell Quirk, and journalist and broadcaster, Nina Mishkov. Mark, I'll start with you. I really wanted to make sure we include the names of those victims, by the way. I hope people don't think it's in poor taste. I just think we talk about the perpetrators all the time, but we never talk about the victims. And I want their names to be remembered in some way. We're getting to a breaking point in this country. There are cases almost every single day where the goodwill of British people has been exploited by people who've broken into this country, committed a crime, and then managed to somehow stay here for indefinitely, some of them.
Yes, I think it's worse than that, right? I think it's even worse than that. So you've touched on, the personal elements of it, the real people who have died in real crimes. The fury and the anger is that our system seems completely unwilling and incapable of dealing with it. I mean, this case of this Ethiopian chap, Kabatu, it is almost literally unbelievable. OK, so we get an illegal migrant who sexually assaults a 14-year-old girl. Eventually he ends up in prison. He's wrongly released from prison. On 4 occasions says, you've wrongly released me from prison, to which we say to him, no, calm down, mate, we'll give you 70 quid so you can have a day trip to London and escort you to the railway station. And then, according to reports, when he starts to get potentially disruptive about his flight home, because he was saying he wanted to be deported, they pay him off with 500 quid to stop that disruption. So the system seems geared not to the British people, but to these sort of chaps. And that, I think, is what's causing real anger. If there was, there's always going to be a certain level of grim violence on our streets, not all brought about by migrants. But what you want to know in those circumstances is that it's being minimised. And when it happens, the justice system, the policing system and the prison services are capable of properly dealing with it, and none of them are. Yeah. And that's where the fury's coming from, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Mark. It is this complete fracturing of systems that we pay for, and we're being asked soon enough, I would have thought, to be paying even more into a system that is not benefiting, in my opinion, British people in many ways.
That roll call of victims that you just read out, I mean, is harrowing. And frankly, let's be honest, let's call it as it is, an absolute disgrace to this country, isn't it? The social contract that's supposed to exist between the public and our government that have one primary job, and that is to keep their population safe, that has completely and utterly broken down. And not just with this government, I would argue the previous one too. I mean, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenner can stand up at the dispatch box all they like, criticise the Labour government for where we are. Let's be honest, the Conservatives were not much better. So we are in a horrendously perilous position, I think, where these are not isolated incidents. The fact that you've just reported, this is 3 such incidents just in 1 week, is an absolute disgrace. But if we want to talk about the kind of subject of money, I asked yesterday ChatGPT what the cost of this Kabatu character was. Bearing in mind, by the way, that roll call of victims, all of those people would still be alive if we'd had a stronger policy with regard to strengthening our borders. But the cost of housing Kabatu as an illegal migrant, taking him through the justice system, putting him in prison, albeit very, very briefly, and then the pathetic actual manhunt, because it wasn't really a hunt, was it? It was waiting for a member of the public to see a man in prison pyjamas with a bag with avocados on it, wandering around a park. Do you know what the total cost of Kabatu has been to this country, excluding the 500 quid, by the way? £252,000 is what that criminal, that paedophile, has cost the taxpayer. It's an absolute disgrace.
It's a good point, isn't it? And he won't be the only one. That cost will keep on spiralling as long as people are allowed to stay here. Nina, I think the British public are at a turning point. They don't know what to do. I've seen videos of people crying in phone calls into other channels because they can't, they've had friends murdered, they're worried about their children. At what point do we need to say the first rule of government is to protect its own? And actually we need to start deporting these people and show a strong message that coming here illegally isn't the right option, and we need to know who they are before they get here.
Well, of course, all of these situations are dreadful, and nobody would say otherwise, and it is appalling. But let's face it, you cannot turn around 14 years of disaster of the Tory government. You cannot, because they left behind a prison system that was completely full, a justice system that was broken, and a police force that had been depleted. What were they going to do? You cannot, as I said, you cannot turn that around in 15 months.
I take that point, by the way. I'm not putting all the blame on Nina for the migrant crisis or the prisoners crisis. But just go on, Nina, finish.
But it's been a complete catastrophe, and they are trying. I mean, how long does it take to build a prison? Did the Tories build any prisons? No. OK, so you need to give them time to do that. But the trouble is that
why can't we just start deporting these people? We have planes.
They shouldn't be here in the first place.
Because you need arrangements with other countries. This guy...
other countries, but we've just proven we can do it. We just proved by deporting...
In 24 hours.
No. Kabatu, we don't have an agreement with Ethiopia. We have an arrangement, which is a different thing, and they needed to do that. And the reason they paid him the £500, I understand, was because if he'd been lodging an appeal, which he looked like he was going to do, although, as Mark said, he said he wanted to be deported, but he got a bit sort of...
It was to stop him playing the ECHR card. Yeah. That's what it was to stop him.
He was, having said he wanted to be deported, he then started playing up and said he was going to play up on the plane and everything.
True.
And so they had to pay £500.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I understand where your mind is on this. However, I think there is a growing pressure mark, and there's a growing movement of the British public who will say, I don't care about these arrangements. I just want these people to go. And I know where you're coming from.
But how do you do it physically?
They shouldn't
how do you do it? How do you do it?
Listen, I think it is reasonable to put some blame at the previous government's door. But you don't need forever and a day to turn this round. What you need is a plan that you execute very quickly. I'm not saying that you can do it in days, but you should certainly be able to do it in weeks and definitely within months.
Well, what is the plan,
But
then?
you say if you arrived here illegally, we will not entertain your asylum claim under any circumstances. Your chances of getting asylum will be zero, right? You make that.
Then we transgress the...
I'm in favour of leaving the ECHR.
Well, yes, but we haven't left yet.
Yeah,
we haven't left yet.
The government doesn't want us to. Yeah. There is no government plan.
OK, briefly from Russell, yeah?
You should be able to do this in weeks. They have not attempted to do
You cannot do it in weeks.
You do that. Guys, you do that, but you also ensure that I'm afraid that if you are here illegally, you choose to come here illegally, it is uncomfortable. Because if you are genuine, there are other more bona fide routes to this country in terms of you being able to legitimately...
There aren't proper routes.
But can I just say, can I just clear one thing up? There's this red versus blue thing with regard to, it's the Labour Party. Oh, no, it's not, it's the Conservatives. This goes back, in my opinion, back to the 90s. This goes back to Blair and Brown. This let's put the drawbridge down. Let's have this effective all refugees are welcome type attitude, which we seem to have had since 1997. This goes back to politicians of multiple decades and multiple colours. It is not just Labour.
Then you cannot turn it around and you cannot turn it.
Well, Tony Abbott did in Australia. Tony Abbott did it like that.
We've got to leave it there. Unfortunately, panel, we've got to leave it there. Unfortunately, knowing what's going on in the press and other things, I know this will not be the last time we talk about this. Sadly, it's very, very sad to say that. We've got a right of reply here on the decision not to try the Romanian national for attempted murder. A Crown prosecution spokesperson said this: "Our thoughts remain with the victim and the family affected by the horrendous actions of Ion Pinatru. I can't pronounce the name, beg your pardon. Who remains criminally responsible and will be sentenced accordingly. The decision to accept a guilty plea to wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm was taken after carefully reviewing evidence provided by two separate expert psychiatrists. The impact of the expert evidence meant that we could not prove that Pinatru specifically intended to kill, which is an essential element of attempted murder offence. We explained our decision to the family in detail and will continue to assist and support them."
Come on.
All right, well, look, there's just 2 days left in our Great British giveaway. Bit of time to cheer yourself up. You could go away with a new motorhome with 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
There's just 2 days left in our biggest giveaway to date, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Someone is guaranteed to win our biggest prize to date. But hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yep, good luck, everybody. Well, coming up, I'll have the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press and some breaking news. On the front page of The Telegraph, Rachel Reeves is eyeing up, as we said earlier, a 2p rise in income tax. But before that...
You share the same love of a single European unity, and it's completely failed.
Are you going to interrupt? Are you going to interrupt me every time I start speaking? Because that's part of the technique, you know, that the populist and the right wing use.
I don't know where he was in that video, but there we go. Lord Michael Heseltine there, he called reform fascist and compares the party's leader to Oswald Mosley and Enoch Powell. How deep does the Farage derangement syndrome actually run? That's next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I thought I'd heard everything in terms of council insanity, but charging people £1,000 to park on their own driveway, this takes the biscuit.
I think, firstly, the amount that they are charging is a huge amount for parking on your own drive, but equally, that sheer amount and the threat of court action causes a lot of anguish and grief, especially to the older people, to vulnerable, to disabled people that I've all come across have had this. And to make it even worse, the council has not actually ever once collected the £1,000 fine. So they're sending letters out, threatening a £1,000 fine, and they've never, ever actually collected that fine. It just causes complete unnecessary misery for people.
Well, that's the definition of insanity. To threaten a £1,000 fine but not actually collect the fine. So what's the point?
I don't know what the point. There is a bit of a possible conflict of interest because the people sending out the letter are Balfour Beatty, who subcontract the roads for Southampton Council, and obviously they also will install drop curbs.
Funny that. So what's happening here is you get a £1,000 threat through the post, and by the way, if you want to avoid that, simply come to the council. And by the way, we can install one of these drop curbs in for you at a handsome price of £800. £800 to get a curb in outside your house when you don't need it. You can go up a normal curb as it is, and I put it to you, every Englishman's home is his castle. This is the violation of that.
Well, we've had cases where people are in council homes and they've been there for 40 years. They've been parking on their drive for 40 years, and suddenly they get a letter saying, sorry, £1,000 fine.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, Tory peer and former Deputy Prime Minister Lord Heseltine has launched a scathing attack on Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. He branded him a phony and a fake and a fascist who must be stopped. Now, speaking to The Times, Heseltine said, "I want to expose Reform for what they are, a reincarnation of Oswald Mosley and his fascists in the 30s when it was the Jews, and of Enoch Powell with immigrants in the 60s. We have seen it all before throughout our history," he added. "The wars of the roses, Catholics versus Protestants. I wanted to tell the Conservative Party, with all the experience I may have, that they must never do a deal deal with Nigel Farage. Well, he further explained his assessment of Mr Farage earlier this evening on GB News.
He sought to associate himself with, first of all, the classic white working class in this country. He then decided that farmers were being persecuted, so he suddenly started appearing in farming kit. And this guy is a populist of a very dangerous sort.
Oh, what do you make of that? And joining me now is Reform UK spokeswoman and former Tory minister who I believe served with Mr Heseltine, Anne Widdecombe. Anne, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Now, I have to start and say I think this is completely bonkers. Comparing reform to fascism is exactly what the left have been doing for a very, very long time. It's what they did to Trump in America. Has Lord Heseltine got a point? What was he like to work with? Tell us all.
Well, what I will tell you is that I sat next to him in 2023 at a dinner at the Oxford Union, which was celebrating its 200th anniversary. And if you recall, at that time, the Tory party was, well, it's still in desperate straits, but it really had just gone through a massive turmoil. We'd had the Boris fiasco, then we had the Truss fiasco. Rishi Sunak wasn't making any waves. And I said to Heseltine, as one ex-Tory minister to another, I said to him, Michael, what do you think the Tory party has to do to regain any credibility? And his answer, I think, explains it all. His answer to me was, and I quote, they have to rejoin the EU. That was literally what he said to me. And I think he has become obsessed by Brexit. And that therefore he thinks it's the root of all the ills in Britain, and that therefore those who promote it, as Reform does, and Reform's made it very clear that we will work Brexit properly when we become a government. For that reason, he just can't understand us at all, and I can't understand him. I mean, how could he say to me with a completely straight face, "Oh, they've got to rejoin the EU in order to regain credibility"?
It's totally bonkers. I mean, also this constant comparison, and it's not just Michael Heseltine, of course, who's making this fascism statement. It's actually some of the other political parties, and they use other terms like far right, which I think means fascist. When you ask me, as someone who studied politics and has been involved in politics for a very long time, when you talk about the far right, I think of Nazis. And so this sort of language, we don't actually see the Conservative Party and the Reform Party throwing it to the left of any part of the political spectrum, but they're throwing a lot of mud, aren't they? They're throwing a lot of mud in the way of right-wing parties. Why is this, Anne?
Well, the specific comparison with Oswald Mosley was particularly offensive, first of all, because of the anti-Semitic connotations, which is a horrible allegation to make. But secondly, Mosley really was fascist. I mean, Powell wasn't a fascist. Powell was right-wing, he wasn't a fascist. Mosley was. And therefore, that is a very offensive statement for Michael Heseltine to have made. But it goes beyond Nigel Farage, because what Heseltine is effectively saying, and others who throw the same mud, what they're effectively saying is that the majority of Britons, because that's what the opinion polls show, the majority of Britons must be fascist as well, because they're supporting reform.
It's totally nuts, Anne. It's totally nuts. Do you think these people understand what the definition of fascist even is?
No. I mean, I was engaged in talking to a student audience a few years ago, before Reform was formed, but we did have the Brexit Party. And I was told by a very prominent left-wing commentator that I worked for a far-right newspaper. That was the Daily Express.
Wow. Wow. Do you think that... Anne, what can people on the right, what can Reform and people who are on the right of politics do to stop this constant name-calling? Because I think it's getting very dangerous. You've seen what's happened in America, and I think the left have really upped their rhetoric on the left over there. And I think we're getting close to it happening here in the UK, which could lead to have serious consequences for the security and safety of politicians, but also just pundits who just want to, break the left-wing narrative. What should we do?
Well, I think what we have to do is sensible people on all sides of the political spectrum have to moderate their language. And really, it's down to them. I mean, if you're going to get to a stage of saying, what are we going to do, then you've got to ask yourself, well, who's doing it in the first place? That's what you've got to ask yourself. Starmer's called us racist. Now, Heseltine calls us fascist. And these are serious practicing politicians. They're not idiots. And that is, the political classes have got to look to their language.
Yeah, it's very, very worrying, and thank you so much for joining me to talk about this ridiculously nuts story, frankly. Reform UK spokeswoman and former Tory minister, Anne Widdecombe. Thank you, Anne. Coming up, I've got the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press, and on the front page of The Telegraph, Rachel Reeves is eyeing up a 2p rise in income tax, and do you think maybe she's in a little bit of trouble on the front page of the Daily Mail? We'll find out more next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Generally brighter across many areas of Europe this week, though we can't rule out some rain, particularly across southwestern areas of Spain and also parts of Portugal, all down to an area of low pressure just to the west of the UK, swinging in some fronts at times. Also fairly showery across northern areas of Italy. Sardinia too could also see some spells of heavy showers, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, pushing into Greece, it should be mostly dry and settled with some sunshine. Now there's still some showers in the forecast over the weekend, but otherwise feeling warm in any sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It'll be a chilly start as we head into tomorrow, soon turning wet and windy in the west with some hazy spells of sunshine elsewhere. Low pressure has very much been dominating our weather over the past few days, but slight ridge of high pressure means we'll see some slightly drier conditions as we progress through into the evening. Some showers will remain for a time, but these will soon ease away as we head our way towards dawn. Light winds, clear skies, so that means it is going to be turning chilly as we head our way into Thursday. It's likely we'll see some frost, particularly across Scotland, northern areas of England, but for all it is going to be a chilly start. Many towns and cities around the mid-single figures. We could also see some mist and fog patches through the early hours. These should lift and clear away relatively quickly through the course of the morning. Still some scattered showers around coasts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry, bright start to the day, but feeling cold with some patchy frost. We'll start to see some thicker areas of cloud push their way into Northern Ireland, also elsewhere across western areas of Wales and southwest England. But for the large majority, it should be a dry but chilly start to the day. Now some spells of sunshine during the first part of the morning, but some thicker cloud will edge its way in from the west, creating any sunshine more in the way of hazy spells of sunshine. And then through the course of the afternoon, we will see some outbreaks of rain start to push their way into Northern Ireland and some western areas of England, Wales and also Scotland, and some quite strong blustery winds associated with this, particularly around exposed coasts of Northern Ireland. Still on the chilly side, highs reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now for Friday, Halloween, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers, but some of these showers could be quite intense, merging into longer spells of rain as they push their way in from the west. A good chance we could see some hail and thunder associated with these, and it is set to be quite a blustery day for all, and that includes into the evening if you are out trick-or-treating, and then we'll see a continuation of the sunshine and showers over the weekend. That's it from me, bye-bye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. I have got your front pages hot off the press. I wonder what's in them. Should we have a look together? The Metro. Now jail fast migrant paid to go quietly. The Telegraph. Rachel Reeves eyes 2p income tax. The Guardian. Grooming gang victims accused Farage of degrading remarks over abuse. The I paper. Starmer signals rise in basic rate of income tax to avoid austerity. And the Daily Mail. Chancellor in crisis. Reeves illegally rented out her own family home. Well, we've got a lot to dig into here, haven't we, guys? I think we've got to start off with our beloved Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. She's on 2 or 3 front pages here in different ways. We've got the Daily Mail, which we spoke about, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But the Telegraph, Reeves eyes 2p income tax rise. Of course, this is off the back of PMQs today. This is where all this speculation has come from, that they're going to raise the rate of basic income tax. It's a 2p income tax rise. Their mark. This would break a manifesto pledge quite clearly, wouldn't it? You know, I always think, if you're going to break a manifesto pledge, you should have to face a general election. I think you should not be allowed to break them.
Well, I don't know how you'd police that, but yes, they are going to. I mean, I think they've already broken their general election pledge by the national insurance, the employers' national insurance. This would unambiguously break it. They could not have been clearer that the rates of income tax would not go up. It seems that they've now explored virtually every other way you could possibly make the numbers add up, given that they're not willing to cut a penny of expenditure, it seems. So it's going to be taxes or debt that needs to rise. And the suggestion, it is speculative by the Telegraph, is they might go for income tax rate, the basic rate, up by tuppence, but cut national insurance, which would be a bit odd, given they just jacked up national insurance on employers last year. They would then try and wriggle off the hook of saying, well, all right, we have put income tax off, but it's offset for working people by national insurance going down. It would, of course, hit pensioners the hardest. If you're paying income tax as a pensioner, you will face this rise and you don't pay national insurance. So, I mean, they are in such a tight corner now.
But that doesn't cut it, does it? Because
no,
if they did that and they tried to say, hey, look, you know, we're giving with one hand, taking away with the other, fair enough. We all know that the only reason that they do that is to create an increase in income, which means that we as the taxpayer, by definition, are worse off.
Yes.
And I think what we need to talk about very, very clearly here is the fact that Rishi Sunak turns out to be right.
Yep.
Do you remember what he said? I think you were playing the clip earlier on. He said they will raise your taxes. No matter what they say, no matter what they pledge, they are going to increase your taxes.
Kemi Badenoch was such a hypocrite at Prime Minister's questions today, because she said to Starmer, we're willing to work with you to bring the welfare budget down. I mean, when the welfare bill went through, they voted against it. So, I mean, you can't have it both ways. You actually can't have it both ways.
Typical politics, isn't it, for you? It's just how they all play each other. They want to declare some sort of victory and then say if they can't, well, sorry, you didn't work with us.
Don't we think it's astonishing, honestly, that the only means that Labour think they have of balancing the books is either to borrow more. You can't borrow anymore, basically, because of where our debt is as a percentage of GDP now. You know, we're borrowing more now than we were even after the Second World War, or to increase taxes. I mean, to your point, Mark, why do the Labour government not believe that they can reduce such things as the investment, so to speak, in net zero, foreign aid, the public sector pay rises that we saw when they first came in, double-digit figures, and we're about to probably give doctors 20%.
Yeah, well, they could do things like tax.
But what about cutting expenditure?
Then people will say, well, actually, we're just taxing more and more things in this country, and actually what people are desperate for is a tax break.
Exactly.
Why can't we get to grips with the spiralling costs of running this behemoth of a government?
Yes, but you must remember that we're having this discussion before we know the facts. This is speculation.
This has been leaked on purpose. This has been trailed.
It's the Daily Telegraph, for heaven's sake. It's in their interest to scaremonger about this sort of stuff.
But we do know, Nina, almost for sure, we don't know exactly where it will be on the spectrum, but that she, because of the projections from the Office for Budget Responsibility, which I would abolish, by the way, but because of their projections, she is going to be somewhere between 20 and 50 billion pounds short. Yeah. We can't be sure where it is on that spectrum, and maybe it will just tip over the other end. Maybe it's going to be 19 billion, maybe it's going to be 51 billion, but somewhere between 20 and 50 billion is what she's going to have to find. And to Russell's point, None of it is going to be done by expenditure cuts. None of it's going to be done by savings. It's all going to be done by
And there's some
tax.
huge easy wins there, in my opinion, if they have the ideological will, which of course they don't.
And the last budget, we were promised no more taxes. I
will not come back for any more, she said.
These are things that come back to haunt you when you spend out of control in the country. And I think whatever happens, austerity is coming. It is coming to Britain. It just depends who's got the backside and the balls to do it. Let's go to the Daily Mail, shall we? Rachel Reeves illegally rented out her own family home. Reeves has referred herself to ethics advisor after Daily Mail reveals she failed to obtain a licence for $3,000 a month income from tenants.
£3,000 a month, that's not 74,000 a year.
Yeah, that maybe I got the wrong house, perhaps.
Okay, fine.
Beg your pardon if I did to anyone at home who was offended by that.
Okay.
Either way, it's still a nice bit of money to have if you're living on taxpayers' dime in your own second home paid for by the taxpayer. I think it's quite a nice.
Every MP has that.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Every MP. Let's not say she's getting preferential treatment.
No, hang on.
Exactly
She is because most MPs
okay, she has a grace and
rent
favour.
something that they then claim the expenses back from. She has a grace and favour property.
But they're financially not,
But that's not even on a tax return. She doesn't even pay a benefit in kind for it.
Those little things aside, the story is here that she didn't get the correct licence.
That's right. It's not really about the money.
No,
it doesn't matter whether she's making $3,000 a month rent or $2,000 or $5,000. That's sort of neither here nor there. If she's got a property and wants to rent it out, that's her perfect right. She didn't fill in the form. And although it strikes me as being an absolutely absurd piece of red tape, the law is the law is the law. Ignorance of the law in Britain is no defence.
Exactly.
And she has not filled in this form. And I think, look, it's not the worst offence anyone could commit, is it? But it speaks again to a political class who keep imposing endless petty bureaucratic rules on the rest of us and seem to be unwilling or unable to follow these rules.
But also to take accountability. She's already trying to throw the letting agent under the bus. We don't know who that is yet. I suspect in the property trade press that will come out. She has. She said, I was not advised by the letting agent.
Well, if she wasn't advised...
No, but it's not a defence, as Mark says. She has an obligation as the Chancellor to know the rules.
But if she wasn't advised by the letting agent, she's perfectly entitled to say so.
If I'm not advised by my accountant on tax, it's still my obligation to know what tax to pay.
You go to an expert.
We'll talk about this front page more, of course, in our paper. We've got more paper review coming up, of course. And on the front page of The Independent, David Lammy's made some comments. He's spoken out about racism in the UK. I'll reveal that next.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
360,000 people are without a home, thousands of whom are on the street, but most living in terrible, terrible conditions, bedsits, awful B&Bs above rows of shops and hostels. 160,000 of those are children. Can you imagine trying to perform at school or in your job? And this is a crisis, Dawn, and it costs billions. That's the worst thing. We spend about £4 billion a year dealing with this, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, let's talk about those 160,000 children, because that's the thing that affected me when I read it this morning. Couldn't believe the numbers of children that are homeless in this country. How is this happening, Andy?
What's happening, Ellie? It's complex, but the biggest single issue, the simplest issue, is that we do not have enough homes. We don't build enough. To put it really simply, if you have a population of 10 people and you have 9 homes, somebody is going to be without a home, and that's what we've got. So when we don't build enough, somebody loses out. It's gone on for decades, by the way. Somebody loses out, and it's always going to be the poorest. It's the people who live the most chaotic lives, or have the least money, are going to be at that bottom and falling out of it. And it's absolute chaos. Ellie, the worst thing about this, it's really fixable. We can get people off the streets. We can create the medium-term accommodation to transition people from the streets, from shelters, into more permanent places. We can do this by reprioritising some of the 2.8 billion. We spend 2.8 billion quid just sticking people into really expensive overnight B&Bs. As I say, awful crummy places above kebab shops where kids are growing up for months on end and struggling with lack of space. We can fix it, but there just isn't the political will.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. I've got some more front pages for you. But before we put them up, I have to give you a warning, because I know if this was me watching, I'd go, Alex, how could you do this to me? There is a spoiler for a very popular BBC show I'm about to show you, all right?
Isn't it?
Yeah, there's a spoiler. So don't turn off the channel, don't switch off, just put it on mute and close your eyes. All right? Let's start with The Sun, shall we? They finally got him. They finally got one. He's knifed by fellow traitors, cast idiots for taking so long, whacked Wassy, what witless wallies. There you go. Spoiler over. You can tune back in now. The Daily Express. A sex attacker migrant was given £500 to leave Britain. Of course, they've got the story, the spoiler on the bottom there. And The Independent. Lammy, I was spat on for being black, but UK is not racist. I want to talk about this story, because I think this is a really good story. Maybe we can all agree on this. The Daily Mirror. MPs pile pressure on King over Andrew. Powerful committee demands answers over Royal Lodge lease. And The Times. Prostate test from age 50 would save thousands. OK, but we're not going to talk about The Sun, because that's ruined my bit of light entertainment I ever had. Let's talk about... let's start with The Mirror, shall we? Actually, you know what? Can we start with The Independent? I want to talk about David Lammy's comments, because Russell, Deputy Prime Minister, has launched personal attack on Nigel Farage, saying that he's pitting neighbour against neighbour. But he has said here in his comments, I was spat on for being black, but UK is not racist. I can agree with that. I think there are racists in the UK that would do nasty things like this, but I don't think the country overall is a racist country.
Well, it's a bit of refreshing common sense, isn't it, from Lammy, which doesn't happen very often, frankly. And, of course, now he's in government, he's changed his tune somewhat, because, of course, when he was in opposition, he was quite the race baiter, actually, in my opinion. So I guess now he's in a proper position of power. I guess he's got to be a little bit more sensible and grown up on occasion, as we're seeing here on the front page of The Independent. This attack, though, on Nigel Farage in terms of him and the Reform Party pitting neighbour against neighbour. I mean, this language, I mean, is very, very accusatory and aggressive, feeding fear and fuelling outrage. I mean, simply all Nigel Farage and the Reform Party are doing is stating facts. And anyone that watched the first part of this programme in terms of the criminality that seems to accompany some migrants, and the disproportionality of that criminality where certain countries are concerned, I mean, how can anybody think that everything is OK? And frankly, calling out these issues, whether it be our porous borders or whether it be the propensity for some nations to commit violent and sexual crime over and above the native population, these things have to be called out. You know, the definition of woke is to put feelings before facts. Reform, I'm afraid, are putting facts before feelings.
I would argue with you that the definition of woke is actually thinking about the other person, thinking about...
That's the original definition, not anymore. Not anymore.
Well,
it's now feelings before facts.
Well, Nina, what do you think of David Lammy's comments, particularly about him, saying the UK is not racist?
Well, the UK as a whole is not racist. We are a democratic, humane society, and they're very civilised. But of course, there are elements at either extreme. There's very, very far left who are anti-Semitic, and then there's very, very far right who are racist. And I would say that if you listen to Sarah, was it Pochin, the other day, and her remarks about being livid about there being too many black people in TV ads.
But hang on, there's a context to that, as we well know.
Never mind.
As we well know.
Context was,
let's not paraphrase too much.
I'm not paraphrasing too much. This is actually what she said. A viewer, a listener...
In the context of TV ads, as being disproportionate to the population.
Yes, but the thing is, she said it made her mad, didn't it?
The disproportionality, the overreach of DEI. That's what she said.
Don't flannel that. What she was talking about was the fact that she didn't like to see so many black people in TV ads.
Don't forget the context.
Well,
it's easy to take the middle part of the sentence.
But even Nigel Farage said that.
Just to clarify, she has apologised, of course, for those comments.
Yes, but she said them, and therefore she thought.
No, the phrasing. Alex, she hasn't apologised. She's apologised for the phrasing, which could have been better.
That's correct.
The phrasing, but that's
the point on Lammy, rather than Sarah Palin, who's not on the front page of any newspaper, who was yesterday. What's potentially interesting here is I hope that Lammy is now accepting that we do not have institutional racism in Britain. That's what people were writing on. Right the way throughout virtually every British institution was either a conscious or a subconscious racism. Now, I agree with Nina's point. There is a small, but, you know, there are a small proportion, but nevertheless a measurable proportion of the population are racist. It is small. But we are not, as a country, or through our institutional infrastructure, racist. And an awful lot of the DEI sort of stuff came in because the establishment were convinced that endless institutions in Britain were somehow consciously or subconsciously racist. Lammy now seems to be saying that he does not believe that is the case, despite some of his unpleasant experiences as a young man.
But can I just bring in the mix?
Because I just want to get Russell to give us the last one, because we're going to talk about this more in a late edition, of course, everybody. So stay tuned, because there's loads more to dig into it. Russell, final comments?
On that?
Yeah.
Well, look, I guess my final comment is a rare piece of sense from David Lammy. Let's hope it continues. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we're going to dig into all these stories. We've got some great inside stories here for you. Loads more front pages to dig into. What's going on in The Guardian? Grooming gangs, they're attacking Nigel Farage over that. What do you think? I will see you in just a tick after the weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It'll be a chilly start as we head into tomorrow, soon turning wet and windy in the west with some hazy spells of sunshine elsewhere. Low pressure has very much been dominating our weather over the past few days, but a slight ridge of high pressure means we'll see some slightly drier conditions as we progress through into the evening. Some showers will remain for a time, but these will soon ease away as we head our way towards dawn. Light winds, clear skies, so that means it is going to be turning chilly as we head our way into Thursday. It's likely we'll see some frost, particularly across Scotland, northern areas of England, but for all it is going to be a chilly start. Many towns and cities around the mid-single figures. We could also see some mist and fog patches through the early hours. These should lift and clear away relatively quickly through the course of the morning. Still some scattered showers around coasts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry, bright start to the day, but feeling cold with some patchy frost. We'll start to see some thicker areas of cloud push their way into Northern Ireland, also elsewhere across western areas of Wales and southwest England. But for the large majority, it should be a dry but chilly start to the day. Now, some spells of sunshine during the first part of the morning, but some thicker cloud will edge its way in from the west, creating any sunshine more in the way of hazy spells of sunshine. And then through the course of the afternoon, we will see some outbreaks of rain start to push their way into Northern Ireland and some western areas of England, Wales and also Scotland, and some quite strong blustery winds associated with this, particularly around exposed coasts of Northern Ireland. Still on the chilly side, highs reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now for Friday, Halloween, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers, but some of these showers could be quite intense, merging into longer spells of rain as they push their way in from the west. A good chance we could see some hail and thunder associated with these, and it is set to be quite a blustery day for all, and that includes into the evening if you are out trick-or-treating, and then we'll see a continuation of the sunshine and showers over the weekend. That's it from me, bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Loads more newspaper headlines coming your way. Of course, we've got The Independent talking about David Lammy. He said he was spat on as a young man, but he says the UK is not racist. What about your income tax, eh? That looks like it's probably going to be going up, doesn't it? On top of that, we've got the Mirror leading on MPs piling pressure on the King to investigate what's going on with that Royal Lodge. Lots more about Rachel Reeves breaking housing law. Loads to dig into. I'll see you in just a moment.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps four, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong and this is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Breaking right now.
There's one rule for them and one rule for all of us.
Yes, is Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor's career, on the ropes just a few weeks off from her budget as the Mayor reveals she's admitted to breaking housing law as she rented out her family home without a licence. And speaking of the budget...
We made an absolute commitment in relation to not raising tax on working people.
Ah, well, Sir Keir Starmer has refused to rule out his sacred manifesto promise of not hiking taxes on working people. So is a 2% income tax hike on the table. And... Ethiopian paedophile Hadush Kabatu was paid £500 of your money to be deported and has also claimed he tried to turn himself into the police but was turned away. And...
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
In a front-page article for The Independent to commemorate Black History Month, David Lammy has launched a scathing attack on Nigel Farage's reform for what he's called feeding fear and fuelling outrage. David Lammy's certainly not afraid, is he? He tends to go after everyone these days. Well, joining me this evening, journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov, director of the popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, and GB News contributor and comedian Steve N. Allen. But first, let's get your news with Sam Francis.
Alex, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 11 o'clock, Sir Keir Starmer is under pressure tonight to launch a full investigation after his Chancellor Rachel Reeves has admitted breaking local housing rules by renting out her London home without the proper licence. The property in Southwark was let for around £3,200 a month after she moved into Downing Street following Labour's election win. A spokesperson says, though, it was an inadvertent mistake made through a letting agency and that she has since applied for the licence. Ms Reeves has also informed the Prime Minister, Parliament's standards watchdog and the independent ethics advisor. Well, that comes as Kemi Badenoch says Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in next month's budget. Speaking at a pre-budget rally, the Conservative leader is expected to tell supporters the Chancellor should get the axe if she puts up tax, accusing Labour of breaking promises and delivering high taxes and out-of-control spending. It comes after Sir Keir Starmer refused to repeat his pledge not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, fuelling speculation of tax hikes to plug a now £20 billion black hole in the public finances. Labour, though, insists the Conservatives have no credibility on the economy, saying their focus is on fixing the long-term damage and putting money back into people's pockets. The Prisons Minister has defended paying migrant sex offender Hadush Kabatu £500 to agree to his deportation, calling it a sensible decision to avoid further disruption. Lord Timpson told peers the payment was an operational call made by officials, not ministers, saying it was far cheaper than keeping him in prison for another year. The Conservative and Lib Dem peers have branded the payment unacceptable and unprofessional, demanding to know whether ministers are running a secret slush fund to pay deportees. Kabatu, who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl and a woman in Essex, was deported to Ethiopia this week with no right to return to Britain. Excuse me, and an update on the situation in the Middle East, where Israel says it has carried out a fresh strike on Gaza, accusing Hamas of preparing an imminent terror attack. That's as fears are now growing the fragile ceasefire could soon collapse. The Israeli military says it hit a weapons storage site, claiming it was being used to plan an assault on IDF troops. It follows a night of heavy bombardment that reportedly killed more than 100 people. That came just hours after Benjamin Netanyahu ordered powerful strikes in response to what he called repeated Hamas violations, though the group denies breaking the ceasefire. Those are your 11 o'clock headlines. More from the newsroom 9:30 tomorrow morning. Now, though, it's back to Late Edition.
Welcome back to the Late Edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Let's get straight to Thursday's front pages, shall we? The Metro. We've got to try and find these now. Here we go. Now, jail fast, migrant pay to go quietly. We will certainly be talking about that in a little bit on in the show. The Telegraph. They are leading with Reeves eyeing 2p income tax rise. And then on The Guardian, grooming victims accuse Farage of degrading remarks over abuse. The I paper, Starmer signals rise in basic rate of income tax to avoid austerity. The Mail, Reeves illegally rented out her own family home. And then we've got The Sun. Sorry, my paper's in a bit of a mess here. The Sun, it's a bit of a spoiler. Sorry if you just tuned in. But whacked Wassy, what witless Wallies. That's a great... I'm surprised I actually got one. That trips me up normally. OK, we've got the Express. What are we going on with the Express is somewhere? The Express is saying something, aren't they? Thank you very much. There's Steve coming to the rescue. Sex attacker migrant was given 500 quid to leave Britain. There we go. All right. Let's get started with Rachel Reeves, shall we? Because on the front page of the Daily Mail, Reeves illegally rented out her own family home. Well, Steve, welcome to the show. She's really not afraid, is she, Rachel Reeves? She's got income tax in the budget coming in. She's got the home crisis going on. I mean, this is a Chancellor who's having to do some very difficult things, but she's really not afraid of being in the press, is she?
That's true. I mean, maybe this is why she was crying. Maybe there's been, you know, tenants can be a nightmare. So maybe that's what that's... But my first take on this story, though, if I'm brutally honest, I know we all love getting all frothy about these stories. When I first saw this one, that she didn't have the selective licence to rent out the property, I did think to myself, it's an innocent mistake that anyone can make, so maybe we should calm down, until I Googled and found out that where I rent out, you don't need a selective licence. And this is the stupidest mistake. What kind of a person doesn't even know whether they need a licence or not? So I think we can go studs high on this one now.
Yeah, Nina, I mean, look, we have spoke about this a little bit before, but it is a small issue. She's saying that her agents that obviously run the property for her didn't make her aware of it, so to speak. At least I'm potentially paraphrasing a little bit here. Do you think she should go over this?
No, that's just ridiculous. This is a mistake that you can make. Let's face it, when she was renting out her family home, when she was moving into Downing Street, there were a lot of things that were going on in her life, and you do kind of tend to, you know, rely on experts, i.e. a letting agent or somebody of that ilk. If you're asking a professional to do a job for you, then you would say, they would presumably say to you, well, look, actually, you're doing this, but we're in Southwark, and in some areas of Southwark, you need to have this weird licence, and it's going to cost you 900 quid or whatever, and she'd have paid it. I can't imagine that she'd known about it and she didn't pay it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, it's obviously, we'll wait to see what she says. I'm looking forward. She'll have to make a statement, I would have thought, at some point. But, Mark, what this says to me, right, is that there are politicians who have resigned over very, very insignificant matters. And rightly or wrongly, I think we should be giving the benefit of the doubt. So they are just human beings at the end of the day. But when you set a precedent of saying to everyone that makes a mistake, resign, 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 surely when it comes to you, you've got to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that Labour is now hoist by its own petard, that its level of piety while in opposition was through the roof. And therefore, there's a certain degree of schadenfreude every single time one of them makes a slip-up, because no mercy was shown for anyone in a blue rosette who made a slip-up. Here's two things to look for as this story develops. The first will be, what did the letting agency say to her? If they can produce an email saying, well, we made it very clear here in paragraph 2 that you need a selective licence, I think she's in a spot more trouble. The second is she should face the full penalty of the law, which I've just looked up. The penalty for renting out a property without a selective licence in the UK can be substantial. If a landlord fails to obtain a required licence, they may face a financial penalty of up to £30,000. The council may take prosecution proceedings, and if convicted, the landlord could face an unlimited fine. A rent repayment order, the landlord may be ordered to repay up to 12 months' rent to the tenant or the council, and ultimately loss of property control. The council may take control of the unlicensed property away from the landlord. Now, what I will be looking for is that she shouldn't in any way get gentle treatment because she's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I don't know exactly which of those buttons Southwark Council will choose to press, but it looks like she's going to be in some personal financial hot water because of this error.
Well, this would be interesting.
Crying then, wouldn't she?
Oh, I think she would be. I would be. But I would be if I had to pay that kind of money out. I mean, it would bankrupt me forever. But the reality is, though, is that, you know, when David Lammy, I remember David Lammy got caught without a fishing licence. Yep. Is that right? He got let off. That was despite the Environment Agency saying they would go after everybody. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So again, we just had a bit of a two-tier, one for the people in power, one for the rest of us.
Yeah.
As Angela Rayner says, one rule for them, one rule for you.
Whatever happened to her, by the way? Can you update me on that?
She's sticking around.
She'll be back, yeah. I think if she were the housing minister, this would be too on the nose, and therefore you'd have to go. But it's just, there's enough leeway, isn't there, that I think as long as there's an investigation that looks into it, she'll ride this one out. She might not ride out the next budget, but she'll ride this one out.
And what a money-making scam that Southwark has got.
Completely mad rule. Mad. Why do you need a licence to rent out your property?
£30,000, a fine of 30. It's like those traffic infringements. You know, there's certain sections where they're making millions a year.
I often think that is how this nation is being funded. Because our taxation system is
Entirely traffic taxes.
At some point, you'll wake up and everywhere will be painted like a box junction.
Yeah.
And that's how
Here's the other thing that I think distinguishes this. You can distinguish it in many ways from the Angela Rayner thing. But one substantial way is Reeves has put her hands up immediately. There were no statements saying, I complied with everything. I did everything I was told. It's all the fault of my lawyer. She said, I genuinely made a mistake. Here is the mistake. I've reported myself to the relevant authorities. You can't really expect her to do much more than that.
Yeah, well, let's see, right? I mean, I think I'm similar-minded to you on this one, Mark. I will look for a robust procedure taking place, so provided she has done something wrong. If she can prove the letting agency is at fault there...
It's still on her. It's still, the responsibility is still on her, whatever the letting agency said.
Should we go to the Telegraph? Have a little look, because there's more Rachel Reeves, if you haven't had enough already. Daily Telegraph are saying Reeves eyes 2p income tax rise. Starmer leaves the door open for increase as he refuses to back down manifesto promises. Yeah, of course, Steve, we saw the exchange between Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, and the Prime Minister today. Now, previously... the Tories have posted a video about this. Previously, when asked if he'd raised the rate of, income or similar taxes, Keir Starmer, point blank, said no. I'm not doing... That was his only response to Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah.
This time, he's come up with a bit of a... We've got to avoid austerity, 14 years of Tory failure. That, to me, sounds like a bit of a deflection.
I think the first attempt at this was... Do you remember when the news was all about getting ready for a war footing in case things kick off in Europe? I thought that was the first step towards preparing us to be ready to pay some more tax. And maybe now they're just, they're manoeuvring it so that we're going to be up for it. The detail is interesting, isn't it? The idea of putting 2p on income tax, but getting rid of 2p from national insurance, because then it captures two people. Pensioners, and we all know how the Labour Party absolutely love the pensioners, so wanting them to freeze a little over winter. But interestingly, landlords. Rachel Reeves, what have you done? You've got a £900 licence to pay for, so she's going to be stung on that one as well. So, but yeah, I mean... it would be so nice if we could just clarify the tax system a little bit so that you knew what you were paying. If they were going to sort all the extra stealth taxes and all the taxes that come at you from an angle and you know what you're paying and it's all an income tax, I'd probably stomach that, because at least you know. But
doesn't this show you the clever way of manipulating the tax system? That actually you can offset a tax by changing the same on another tax. I think you're right. It just shows that the entire thing is bankrupt and it's designed to be massaged and manipulated by the government so they can change taxes when they want. I think, Mark, you were talking about pensioners earlier as well, weren't you? Because Nina, it does feel like this is a sort of a stealth wealth tax, perhaps. What do you make of that?
Well, it could be, but I'd just like to point out that Mel Stride, who was the shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, said at the Tory party conference at a fringe meeting, when he was asked how he would solve the current economic crisis, he said he'd put tax up.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
There you go.
So,
he didn't have a manifesto.
Both Tories and Labour are about 17%.
The thing is, as I say, this is still speculation, and it seems to me, we are stuck into this whole budget, fixed budget thing, and it's going to be at the end of November, and it's going to be this, and so there's all this speculation. So in the meantime, nobody's buying a house. Or nobody's selling a house, because let's wait and see what's going to happen. Is stamp duty going to go? Well, obviously not, because the Tories have put that shot across the bow. But if they would just make an announcement at any day of the week and say, stand up in Parliament, say, right, OK, this is what's going to happen, we're going to put 2p... Why not do that?
This is a great idea. I favour abolishing the budget.
Yeah.
I have no idea why we have this ludicrous ceremonial
thing with a red case and a glass of whiskey.
The assumption should be that the tax rules remain the same unless the government brings forward legislation. That applies to every other area of law. We don't have an annual announcement on criminal law. We don't have an annual announcement on, what our energy policy is going to be. If you want to change tax law, bring forward legislation. It doesn't all need to be done in this ludicrous way of a build-up of a month.
Is it done to appease the city and to appease, that big financial wealth that
I think you might want every year to give a financial statement. So you stand up and say, here are the present numbers. We're this much in debt. We've got this much money coming in. We think that growth next year is going to be this and the year after that. That's fine. Here's my audit for the country of where the economy stands. But I think if you want to change the tax rules, you bring forward legislation at any given time, not on... I mean, under the Conservatives it was even worse. We had 2 a year, the spring, and occasionally an emergency one, 3 a year.
Nuts.
I mean, these just become
that called the Liz Truss budget?
Political grandstanding. It was just absurd. So just get rid of it.
Yeah, is this an admission that they can't get welfare reform through? Is this what this is? Is this because they know that their own party's going to rebel? Keir Starmer's looking down the barrel of council elections next year, where there's many people, whispers in Westminster saying, we can maybe get rid of him then, that's a good time, he's got to go then. Is that what's happening here? Is it a pivot to the left?
It's not necessarily a pivot to the left. It's an acknowledgement that the left is there because of this broad but not very deep majority that they have. They're in a bit of a tricky situation. I think credit where it's due. Everyone keeps saying that the Labour Party is not trying to get a grip of spending. They tried and they failed. They did think, let's reform the spending when it comes to welfare, and it didn't work, did it? They couldn't manage to make any meaningful change. They've now just moved numbers around a little bit. But Keir Starmer is aware of the fact that if they try and do anything on spending, there'll be such a pushback. So that's not the area you get to play with, which is a shame because it's one half of the important system. Taxation's never going to be good for the economy because spending is the only thing that could be good for it. And the problem is the spending is all locked in a place where it's not necessarily that efficient. It's helping us to get millions of people not in work instead of managing to change it, which might get people in work and get some productivity back before AI comes and takes it all. So they are very much, they're hamstrung. So we're just seeing them dance.
You know, because this is a big matter. If they do this, and we don't know they're going to do it, right? We don't know for sure, but it's looking more and more like with all the kite flying that's been going on. We were actually talking about this story, I think, a week ago. I mean, it feels like, I don't know what a week is these days in politics. But Nina, because, you know, I think a lot of people will be saying if you break a manifesto pledge, you should some way have to be held accountable for that. I'd say the same for the Tories and anyone in government who doesn't. I mean, I would say this about the Tories for breaking their pledge on immigration constantly. If people vote for these things, they expect the government to deliver. Do you think there should be some form of punishment for governments that don't deliver?
Well, they're punished at the ballot box, aren't they? That's the thing. If you break the trust with the public, then they can take it back, you know, on you at the ballot box. That's what's going to happen.
I think we should go to like a Britain's Got Talent style, 4 crosses and you're out. 4 manifesto pledges and there's a general election.
So having already argued we should abolish the budget, I think we should probably abolish party manifestos, because we go through this ridiculous dance in an election in which I promise I'm not going to do A. I promise I'm not going to do B. And it's like, well, you're going to do C then. No, that's just hypothetical speculation. It would be much better, I think, for people to give their broad prospectus rather than to tie themselves in to some tiny detail of tax policy, which then becomes completely confusing. Things become economically necessary but politically impossible because of previously made pledges. So I'd much rather have politicians saying, my broad approach over 5 years is going to be this, rather than making these specific pledges.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens in other countries like America. They do border policies, don't they? Anyway, coming up in just a moment. Ethiopian paedophile Hadush Kabatu's £500 payment for his deportation has, as you might have guessed, made the front pages. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Sheffield has raised a few eyebrows after slapping death and violence triggers on, you know what's coming, the Bible. Christians and historians have dubbed the warnings as misguided and absurd and incompatible with discussions about morality. Joining me now is co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast, Mark Lambert. Mark, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Mark, I mean, I can see from the smile on your face already what you make of this story, but just articulate for me your feelings about it.
I think it's typical of the culture that wants to sexualise our children and have drag queens and all this kind of stuff. And they want to censor the Bible, you know, they want to censor the book that built our civilization. It's just so vacuous in academic terms that this is the way that they want to move forward. And it's kind of redolent of that post-Enlightenment ideology that says that we need to tear down the things that have worked for hundreds of years. You know, we've stood on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, built on these principles. But in reality, it stifles critical thinking, any deep textual engagement. And instead of equipping students to grapple with complex narratives that reflect the human condition, like sin, sacrifice, salvation, these warnings promote intellectual avoidance, reducing profound theological events like Christ's crucifixion to just triggers for graphic bodily injury or sexual violence. This isn't education, Dawn. It's a superficial evasion that undermines the very purpose of academia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Late Edition, everybody. Should we start with the Daily Express? Because they are leading on Hadush Kabatu. Sex attacker migrant was given £500 to leave Britain. A migrant sex offender mistakenly freed from jail was paid £500 to accept deportation to Ethiopia. Now, obviously, we spoke about this quite a lot on the show, but Steve, this is very embarrassing.
Yep.
This whole saga, from the minute he got here, in my opinion, is embarrassing because he shouldn't have been here in the first place had we controlled our borders. And now we find out, on top of the hundreds of thousands of pounds, I think, was it you, Mark, that was doing the maths earlier on this?
£250,000
spent on him, yeah, or within that sort of ballpark at least. Now we also gave him £500, which, as I said earlier on, in Ethiopia would be a whole year's salary.
Yeah. Look, I understand the maths of it, where they say, look, it would be more expensive to not do this. Fair enough, but you also have to take on the chin the attacks that you're going to get for it, the mockery, because what a ridiculous system. The idea of like, give him some money so he actually gets on the plane quietly. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show The A-Team, where each week B.A. Baracus did not want to get on a plane. I believe fool is it said at the end of that sentence. And so what they used to do is give him a glass of milk with some drugs in it. They roofied him every week. He fell for it every week. But that would be cheaper than giving him £500.
We're not endorsed, just to be clear to you, we're not endorsing drugging people to get them on planes.
You might not be. No, you're right. I think it was a work of fiction anyway. So,
it was.
But it would have been cheaper. The idea, the whole thing was such a farce. Not only did he keep going back to the prison to say, are you doubly sure? I'm sure I'm supposed to be in prison for a while. But no, they then gave him some money, pointed him in the direction of a train station. He then gets into London and hangs around a library, which is a weird thing for a while. But then the police didn't manage to catch him. They did basically nothing. It was 24 hours after we knew that escape's not the right word, is it? He was turfed out, that the police then said, we're asking him to hand himself in. It took you a day to come up with that amazing piece of policing. At least dress up a short policeman as a 13-year-old and see what happens. It could have helped.
It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is that when people were watching this, suddenly seeing him in the library going up the stairs with his avocado carrier bag, he almost, the paedophilia, awful, just dreadful. He almost became a sort of folk hero to some people because they could see that he was not hanging around a kid's playground. He was not in the public toilets or whatever. He was in a library, for God's sake.
I would take issue with calling him a folk hero person.
No. But some people thought that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure some people would. But I think that just shows how deranged our country's become because, at the end of the day, this man, for all of his flaws, was a paedophile. I mean, he did other things wrong as well. I mean, he tried to sexually assault a woman too. You know, but at the end of the day, I mean, actually, Mark, can I get your thoughts on this, if you don't mind? Actually, give us your thoughts, and I want to show something to you.
Well, I'm amazed that basically by threatening to cause a raucous on an airplane, you get 500 quid. I'm going to try this next time I'm on holiday. I'm flying off to Tenerife for Christmas. What I get if I say, just to let you know, I'm going to kick up a right fuss unless you give me some spending money. I could do with 500 quid to get... This is just what's so ludicrous about it. Now, maybe we can't go down the B.A. Baracus, drug the milk, but you would have thought it's a non-negotiable thing that we are putting you on this plane. There were 5 guards with him. You handcuff him, you put him on the plane, and off it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
you can negotiate for get 500 quid by threatening to kick up a fuss.
I've actually been on a plane when there was a plane to Morocco on Christmas Eve a few years ago, and there was an enormous fuss in the arm that comes out to the plane, and then, my God, shouting and screaming and stuff. Anyway, this guy was brought through, and he was quite quiet. He was quiet on the plane. So they can kick up a fuss. But I understand that 500... because we don't have an agreement with Ethiopia for returns, we have an arrangement, and there's a sum of £1,500 that can be, you know, available to sweeten the thing. And £500 was... I know you said you didn't agree with the fact that, you know, if we'd kept him in, it would have cost far more to keep him in prison here and blah, 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 blah.
But these sweeteners are supposed to be for, like, families that have decided to go back home.
Yeah.
Not for convicted paedophiles, sex offenders, for crying out loud.
I think the thing is they just wanted to get him out of the country. For Christ's sake, 500 quid and off he goes.
And I can sympathise with wanting to get him out of the country. This is the kind of energy the British public want to see replicated for thousands more of them. And I think if we can do that, I wonder how many other foreign criminals we could deport with 500 quid. I think, actually, you said to the taxpayer, look, we can only do this with 500 quid sort of bribes. I think, actually, might end up all saying, whilst we don't like it, we'd rather take that option than keep them here. Anyway, shall we move on to another story here on The Guardian, if I can locate it? Here we go. Because grooming gang victims have accused Nigel Farage of degrading remarks over abuse. Yeah. 5 women have asked for an apology from Nigel after he suggested they were not victims of grooming gangs. Now, this is really interesting because, of course, we spoke about this story. I think I broke this story last week sometime when I was covering for Martin. And at the end of the day, what people are arguing here is that actually the 5 women that came out in favour of Jess Phillips, who I believe are the 5 here, I will read more into this, believe this is what the story is. Well, the one that was named actually was supposedly not a victim of grooming gangs, but a victim of child sexual exploitation, which is why Nigel Farage in his press conference, I believe, Mark, had made the remarks to say, actually, that headline was misleading. Yes, I mean, it's quite annoying on The Guardian because I can't actually find exactly what Farage said. But here's the difficulty, right? And this national inquiry has already run into the ground before it started. When it does start, the normal operating procedure will be it'll last a decade. I mean, we are embarrassingly hopeless at these sort of things. But here's the issue. Do you want this to be an inquiry very specifically into the grooming gangs? And then you'd have to have some pretty strict guardrails, lines of definition about what counts as sexual abuse within grooming gangs. Or do you sort of say, well, there's a sort of general problem with child sexual abuse right across the land, come one, come all, we want to hear from you. It might have been a member of your own family who abused you or whatever. Well, then the national inquiry gets such a remit, it would be unsurprising for it to last 10 years. And I think, although I've not seen his quote, but what Nigel Farage is saying is it needs to be narrow, it needs to be very specifically on the grooming gangs. That's not to say there isn't a problem with sexual abuse elsewhere, but to actually have a proper, functioning, quick inquiry, you've got to narrow its scope to that particular definition. Steve, I'm just going to read out Farage's comments here, because he said this. 5 of the grooming gang victims that... those that feel insulted have withdrawn from the inquiry, but you'll be told there are 5 who insist that Jess Phillips stays in place, and that the inquiry continues. But here's the truth about the other 5. There are 2 very distinctly different groups of young people who are sexually abused and raped by adults. And what has happened with this inquiry is the government have, quite deliberately, from the very start, widened the scope out from those who were victims of Pakistani grooming gangs and brought in other women. I am not demeaning demeaning or diminishing in any way the treatment that they have been through. I'm just pointing out they were victims, survivors now, of a very different kind of sexual abuse.
The women say, actually, we are survivors of grooming and grooming gangs. Farage's lack of knowledge and assumptions about our experiences as victims and survivors of grooming gangs proves he should not have a platform to make decisions about us or our input.
Well, this is where it gets complicated, isn't it? Because I actually think we're going to need to define grooming. Yeah. I think we're going to need, one of the first things this inquiry should do is make a definition of what a victim of a grooming gang is, because
this is such nitpicking. It really is.
But it's really important nitpicking, because if the inquiry goes into things that have already been covered by Baroness Casey's review, then actually we're going to do a massive
But these
disservice.
Women are victims, and their voices should be heard.
Yes, but they might be... So it's the same if I'm a victim of a car crash, but there could be a victim of a train accident. Am I a victim of vehicular movement, or am I a victim of a specific crime? Right.
No,
and I
disagree with you on this. But if they say they're a victim of a grooming gang, can be how many people? So say 2 people, 3 people. Do they have to be Asian? Before we.
But so I don't think what we're saying is you have to define grooming gang as a term that's the term we all use. It's the definition for the inquiry. It's not saying that you can't say this is a grooming gang. But what grooming gangs are you looking into in the inquiry, and do you fit within that definition?
But the
That'll
thing
be
is,
a yes or no. That doesn't
they are
conclude
saying they are survivors of grooming gangs.
And I think
you should know.
But could be a victim of a grooming gang, but not the ones that I'll be
not
looking into.
Not the Asian ones, then.
If that's how you defined it.
But I don't want to speak too out of turn here, and I will come back and clarify if I have at any point, because I'm always trying to be fair on these things. But I believe the woman that was named in this Guardian article when it first broke actually was a victim of child sexual exploitation, and not a grooming gang where they were passed around with sex, drugs and plastered with all these things. That is my understanding. However, I could be wrong. I will look to clarify that, and next time I'm on air, maybe on the weekend, I will clarify that. We'll come back to the story in the papers because the Metro is running it as well, I believe. So, loads more to come on this. But coming up very shortly, do you remember this?
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
David Lammy's at it again with the attacks on Nigel Farage. Plus, we've got some breaking news on Rachel Reeves' admission of breaking housing regulations. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It'll be a chilly start as we head into tomorrow, soon turning wet and windy in the west with some hazy spells of sunshine elsewhere. Low pressure has very much been dominating our weather over the past few days, but slight ridge of high pressure means we'll see some slightly drier conditions as we progress through into the evening. Some showers will remain for a time, but these will soon ease away as we head our way towards dawn. Light winds, clear skies, so that means it is going to be turning chilly as we head our way into Thursday. It's likely we'll see some frost, particularly across Scotland, northern areas of England, but for all it is going to be a chilly start. Many towns and cities around the mid-single figures. We could also see some mist and fog patches through the early hours. These should lift and clear away relatively quickly through the course of the morning. Still some scattered showers around coasts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry, bright start to the day, but feeling cold with some patchy frost. We'll start to see some thicker areas of cloud push their way into Northern Ireland, also elsewhere across western areas of Wales and southwest England. But for the large majority, it should be a dry but chilly start to the day. Now, some spells of sunshine during the first part of the morning, but some thicker cloud will edge its way in from the west, creating any sunshine more in the way of hazy spells of sunshine. And then through the course of the afternoon, we will see some outbreaks of rain start to push their way into Northern Ireland and some western areas of England, Wales and also Scotland, and some quite strong blustery winds associated with this, particularly around exposed coasts of Northern Ireland. Still on the chilly side, highs reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now for Friday, Halloween, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers, but some of these showers could be quite intense, merging into longer spells of rain as they push their way in from the west. A good chance we could see some hail and thunder associated with these, and it is set to be quite a blustery day for all, and that includes into the evening if you are out trick-or-treating, and then we'll see a continuation of the sunshine and showers over the weekend. That's it from me, bye-bye.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition. Some breaking news for you now. The government has published the exchange between Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer regarding her admission about breaking housing regulations. Here we go. Reeves wrote this. I wanted to make you aware of a matter which has been brought to my attention regarding my family home, which we are letting out to tenants via an external lettings agency. The property is situated in Dulwich Wood Ward of Southwark Council. There are selective licensing requirements in this ward for renting out a property. Regrettably, we were not aware that a licence was necessary, and so we did not obtain the licence before letting the property out. This was an inadvertent mistake. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we took immediate action and have since applied for the licence. The property is declared on the members' register of interest in line with requirements. I have today spoken to the independent advisor on ministerial standards, and I have made the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards aware. I sincerely apologise for this error, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. And Sir Keir Starmer wrote in return, thank you for your letter and for meeting with me this evening. The public rightly expects the highest standards of conduct from the politicians who serve them. The Ministerial Code sets out these values, and I have made it a core tenet of this government's mission to uphold them. I have this evening consulted with my independent advisor on ministerial standards. He has advised me that in relation to your inadvertent failure to secure the appropriate licence for your rental property, and in light of your prompt action to rectify your position, including your apology, further investigation is not necessary. The Ministerial Code makes clear that certain circumstances an apology is sufficient resolution. It is important that all ministers are able to acknowledge where they consider themselves to have fallen below the standards expected of them. I'm satisfied that this matter can be drawn to a close following your apology. It is regrettable that the appropriate licence was not sought sooner, and it is right that you have taken the appropriate steps today to address this. It's clear to me that you are treating this matter with urgency and seriousness it deserves. All right, well, there you have it, everybody. That is the exchange between the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister regarding Rachel Reeves's illegally renting out her home to another family. There we go. Let's go now to the Late Show live host, which is starting at midnight, GB News' very own Bev Turner. Bev, what's coming up tonight on your show?
Hi, Alex. Lovely to see you. I was watching that with interest, actually. You were saying there with those statements from Rachel Reeves, we're going to be discussing that as well, because personally, I think this was probably a mistake. But is that worse, actually? If there's incompetence or a lack of attention to detail, which means you can make such a simple mistake, really. I mean, it's pretty basic. It would have cost her 900 quid. I don't think she's done it deliberately to save herself 900 quid at the risk of ruining her career. But she has the economy in her hands, and she can't get the rental of her own house right. Then that is a terrible indictment on her. I'm so sorry, but as a politician, as a human being, as somebody that owns her own property, the fact that she got this wrong is really quite scary, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that tonight. as well. And we're going to be looking at the impacts of the hurricane, with the disaster relief, what happens now to these areas that have been hit. Haiti actually hit worse than Jamaica. And we're going to also be following Donald Trump because he's got these crunch talks with the leader of China, with Xi Jinping, which will have a huge implication, obviously, for probably the whole world, not just America, not just China, but everybody. So we're going to be looking at that as well.
Yeah, Bev, it's really important. These talks with China are critical to the economy globally. These are the two superpowers of the world. What you wake up to when these talks are over will be the state of global economics for the foreseeable future. It's really important stuff, Bev. What is Trump's position at the moment? Because he has sort of gone back and forth on the tariff stuff, hasn't he? He's now said he's going to drop a load of tariffs. There's this massive trademark deal that's supposedly in the works. What do you make of it all?
I think Donald Trump is incredibly wedded to tariffs, and even though he's getting pushback from quite a lot of economists who are saying these aren't necessarily working well for even the economy here in America, actually it is something that he sees as a fundamental part of his economic policy here in the US. And I think that's his businessman's brain. He sees it as revenue. He sees tariffs as a way of bringing in money to the country, and he's going to give them up, you know, without a fight. He won't give them up without a fight. So let's see what happens with China, because, of course, he also sees China not just as a trading partner, but as a potential threat to this country from a security point of view. The biggest fundamental threat to this country, I would say, more than we hear about Russia being impacted, potentially have an impact on the US. China is the country that they watch very closely, because a lot of the work going on behind the scenes that might affect America is not the overt warfare. It's all of the stuff that we don't see. The fact that there are no companies that come and work in America or any country around the world without the Chinese government having some say behind the scenes on what's going on with those companies. I think the UK can be very naive about China, whereas the US is not at all naive. So let's see how that plays out with Donald Trump when he meets the Chinese president tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Brilliant stuff,
I don't know what time of the day it is.
Neither do I.
What time it is, Alex. The weird thing, but the weird thing is that the clocks have changed in the UK, but the clocks haven't changed here in America. They don't change until the weekend. So I'm a little bit discombobulated.
I don't blame you, Bev. I don't even know what day of the week it is. One of the panellists, and Nina, had to stop me earlier on for saying it was Thursday night or something. I don't know. Here, there we go, though. I'll be really interested to see those trade talks. Of course, I think one of the deals is that China would put pressure on Putin. But there we go, Bev. Look forward to watching the show at midnight tonight. See you shortly. Let's get the thoughts of our panel on this story, though. David Lammy. Lammy, on the front page of The Independent here. I was spat on for being black. The UK is not racist. Deputy Prime Minister launches deeply personal attack on Nigel Farage's reform for pitting neighbour against neighbour, feeding fear and fuelling outrage, and recalls how countries stood up to skinhead gangs of his childhood. Steve, talking of skinheads, you're almost there.
People think they can guess your politics by how much hair you've got.
No, that's true. Weird, it's true. Yeah, it's true. But you know, what do you think? He said here he's not. The UK is not racist, and I agree with him. I don't think that of course there are racist people in the UK, but as a country, I totally agree with David Lammy. We're not a racist country.
Yeah, it's nice to hear him say this. I think he might also be saying it because he couldn't really say the opposite, given that he's the Secretary of State for Justice. It would feel like, well, sort it out yourself then. Why have you not done this? No, but it is nice to take that, to actually have that definition. Of course, there are still racists that need to be dealt with, but it's not as if the nation is fundamentally flawed with that particular issue. And look, the attacks on Nigel Farage's Reform UK, of course, that's the game of politics as well, I guess. Yeah. What else would you expect him to do? But the idea of saying that some of the actions of Nigel Farage are somewhat divisive, well, it feels that it's not as if David Lammy hasn't been a whiff divisive sometimes in some of the ways he responded to things. All of his attacks of the white saviour syndrome for comic relief seems like that's an odd thing a way of which to attack poor Bob Geldof, wouldn't it?
Well, this is the thing, right, Nina, because many people will look at things that David Lammy said in the past, and I think a lot of the things he said are very divisive. I mean, he said, I think he's called reform, far right. He's said about
reform is far right.
No, it's not.
Oh, come on. Well, it's
definitely
all right.
not.
It's right.
Yeah, I think it's right.
It's right.
I certainly believe it. But my definition of far right is Nazism, and I don't think Reform UK
I'm not even going there. I was going to say, who politically, and as a political, is further right than Reform?
But that doesn't mean...
Tommy Robinson.
No, yeah, but he's not a party.
The British National Party.
That doesn't automatically mean everyone's got to fit.
He's not a party now.
UKIP is a party now.
Is it really?
British National Party.
Where they been? Oh, thank God, they've been hiding under a stone, I would have thought. Bloody hell.
But the thing is that just because there is no one further right than Reform doesn't mean that there has to be a slot filled by it. And I think that's the reality, isn't it? But I think here what he's saying, I mean, he was talking about the Hitler Youth stuff, right? I don't know if we've got a video to play of it at some point. But, you know, I think when you say things like that, you're causing division. I haven't heard Nigel Farage throw, you know, silly words at the Labour Party, call them far left, or call them XYZ names, call them Che Guevara or anything like that. Nina.
No, I haven't heard that, but I'm sure I'd like to hear what he said about Jeremy Corbyn in the past. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is far left, isn't he?
I don't think Jeremy Corbyn's far left. No, I think Jeremy Corbyn's
you're talking. You know, you're talking. You know, my
left is Che Guevara. It's like we're socialist revolution.
But we're not. You know, we're not discussing. You know, we haven't got Che Guevaras in this country, really, have we?
Well, you can make that argument. Fair enough. You can make that argument.
No, we don't have that. No, there are people who would look at what Farage is doing and say, well, he's he's a brilliant communicator, a consummate politician, and some of the things he says. In terms could be seen as scaremongering.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk more about this after the break, guys. All right, we've got coming up. We've got yet even more breaking news for you. This time it pertains to Nigel Farage, including some of the behind-the-scenes footage from earlier this evening. This is Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Don't miss it.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Generally brighter across many areas of Europe this week, though we can't rule out some rain, particularly across southwestern areas of Spain and also parts of Portugal, all down to an area of low pressure just to the west of the UK, swinging in some fronts at times. Also fairly showery across northern areas of Italy. Sardinia too could also see some spells of heavy showers, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, pushing into Greece, it should be mostly dry and settled with some sunshine. Now there's still some showers in the forecast over the weekend, but otherwise feeling warm in any sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Rightio. Well, welcome back, everybody. We've got some breaking news in Westminster now, where Nigel Farage has won at the Spectator's Parliamentarian of the Year Awards. Let's listen to his speech.
Whatever the revolution in America was, it's as nothing to what's coming here in the UK. But can I just say what an honour it is for Michael Gove to present this, and the Right Honourable James Cleverly from Braintree, the future leader of the Liberal Democrats. Quite extraordinary. I wish you very, very well with it. So I want to say this, given that, you know, Christmas is now hoving into view. If you're here tonight as a Redmore Labour MP, struggling with your mental health, or you're a Conservative in the depths of despair, rather than last year saying, I'll wipe you out, this year I'm saying, please come to me for counselling. I can offer you a political future where you might just stay a Member of Parliament, but in line with Zia Yusuf earlier, folks, 90% of this room may hate it, but we are going to win the next general election. So really.
There you have it, Nigel Farage making his Parliamentarian of the Year award speech at the Spectator event there. What do you make of that, Steve? I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I think he's extremely charismatic and always can deliver a great speech that gets the audience, people want to hear what he has to say. However, I always throw caution into the wind when you keep saying you're going to win a general election. We've seen it all before.
Yeah, he sticks his chin out too far, because all it would take is for the Tories to absolutely copy everything they're doing, but be the Tories, with the track record of having governed before, and it would deplete all of whatever their lead is in the polls. That would be hit if you get any of the parties nicking you good ideas. So, yeah, maybe don't boast about it too soon.
Nina, he's invited defections from Labour and the Tories. What do we make of that?
Oh, of course he's going to do that. As we said before, he's a consummate politician, great communicator, a very, very dangerous man in my eyes. But 4 years is a long time. And, you know, 4 weeks is a long time in politics, 4 days in this country. But 4 years. So let's see what happens. I sincerely doubt it. I really do.
Mark, do you think he's stating the obvious that Reform are going to win the next general election? He's looking at the polls. I mean, he's not wrong. At the moment, when we saw that latest poll come out, he would storm it.
Yeah, and he's the bookie's favourite. Much can change. I think what that tells us is he genuinely thinks he's going to win. But he knows it's pretty hard to go from 5 MPs to forming a majority government sort of overnight. All right, maybe they'll pick up 1 or 2 more in by-elections. But we've never seen in Britain a party go from... It took Labour to go from 2 MPs, 30 years before they became a majority government? So all of this, if you're a Red Wall Labour MP in despair, if you're a Conservative with mental health problems, come to me for some counselling. I think he realises if he's going to win, he could well do with another dozen, 15, 20 MPs on the Reform benches, so he has something approaching a shadow cabinet.
I think so. Look, I think that is, if the polls stay as they are, and let's say we are those 4 years away from a general election. I think it will probably be more like 3.5 with the majority that Keir Starmer's got, going by tradition. I think you will start to see those defections racking up. It just depends whether his base are happy to see people from across the political spectrum, particularly Labour and the Tories, come into the party. We'll see. All right, let's go through your headlines one more time, shall we? The Metro. Now, jail fast, migrant paid to go quietly. The Daily Telegraph. Reeves eyes 2p income tax rise. The I paper. Starmer signals rise in basic rate of income tax to avoid austerity there. Very interesting. The Daily Mail. Chancellor in crisis. This has been the big headline of the night, hasn't it? Reeves illegally rented out her own family home. The Sun. Lovely spoiler here for everyone who loves this show. Whacked Wassy, what witless Wallies. The Mirror. MPs pile pressure on King over Andrew. Powerful committee demands answers over Royal Lodge lease. The Times. Prostate test from age 50 would save thousands. The Daily Express. Sex attacker migrant was given £500 to leave Britain. The Guardian. Grooming victims accuse Farage of degrading remarks over abuse. And Lammy on The Independent. I was spat on for being black, but UK is not racist. There we go. That is all I have for you. I'll be back on Saturday. Let's go to The Late Show Live with the one and only Bev.
Thank you, Alex. Yep, we are here in Washington, D.C. We've just seen that statement from Rachel Reeves telling the Prime Minister how she feels about the fact that she rented out her house without the proper licence. Do you think it was just a mistake? Did she do it on purpose? Does it really matter? We're also going to be looking forward to Trump sitting down with the leader of China. It probably will affect all of us. Stay with us.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to